Happy Friday night. I'm Artful Roger, and if you're joining live right here on TikTok, welcome. And if you're seeing this video in my archive on YouTube under Artful Roger with a D, welcome. Today is Friday, February 9th here in Atlanta, and just doing a quick live here as I continue working on a clock case upcycle that I'm working on here, which is, if you don't know what a clock case is, it is a case that holds a clock. Amazing. Clock went here, and this is a case, so it's a clock case. And I'm converting this into a room, actually, is what it's going to be when I get done. Grandma Madonna, yes, I am back. I am back again tonight. I told you I would be popping in when I could. Some things have come up on Sunday, so unfortunately, I probably won't be popping up during the day on Sunday, but I may still try to crash the Super Bowl by doing a live during Super Bowl, which is an act of, hey there, retired. Jody, my goodness. So you guys must have it set up so that if I go live, you must get a notification or something, because surely you're not on TikTok all the time. That would be me on TikTok all the time. So you get a notification. Okay, cool. Yeah, when I pop in. Yeah, tonight I just had a few minutes and I thought, why don't I just kind of work on this? Hey, Dalton, Georgia. Love Dalton. It's pretty up that way. Passed right by it on the way to Chattanooga. Yeah, good, Joey. I'm good. You guys are letting me know how this works. Unfortunately, I want to tell you the live that we did last night with a 2-hour live, I had to take it down off YouTube because it was brought to my attention by one of my moderators, and then again by someone who has become kind of a email friend here on TikTok. My home address, unfortunately, was on this shipping label. You can see it's been removed, but someone actually showed me that they went to Google Maps and pulled up a picture of my house, and so let's just say that Artful Roger was shook for just a little bit of time. I had to go to pain bed for a minute here to think it over and decide if I was going to take that video down. As you probably will know, when it comes to the internet, we don't know who's out there, and having my home address out there is a little bit unnerving. Although you probably could search my name and find my address, I just don't want to make it easy. And my moderator told me about it last night, and I thought, well, it's grainy. No one's going to stop on that and probably pull it up. Well, someone did. Someone that is in good standing, of course, but let me know it's there, so I had to take it down, unfortunately. Yeah. Hey, Garrett. Hello to Boise, Idaho. Yeah, so unfortunately, the entire video had to be removed from YouTube because I can't go in and edit it. I can't do any blur out of my address. If I don't do it right here, like I did on this label, that's just how it is. And I feel I have some childhood trauma, like we all do. It's attached to feeling dumb. I don't like feeling stupid and naive. It's one of my fears, and I was playing the record after they sent a picture of my house to me in an email, and I was thinking, you're dumb. I was playing that over in my head, that how stupid I am, that I didn't look at this label, and I'm better now. I decided that perhaps instead of curling up in a ball and feeling sorry for myself, maybe I'll just go and do a live again with the address removed. And that way, I'll at least have something. Hey, Texas, at least I'll have something to post on YouTube that explains this clock case project that I thought started out so well in a very, very entertaining live. I thought it was a really good session. I was very depressed, actually, to have to remove it from TikTok, but remove it from YouTube, and it's been removed. Hello, Alabama. What part of Alabama are you in? You have to tell me. Are you Northern Alabama, Southern Alabama? Birmingham is a beautiful city, by the way. Surprisingly, much prettier than I ever thought it would be. Lori, it's absolutely true that I have to think of things like that. And, I worry now, what am I missing? What's in the background? Because I'm finding that people are looking at all kinds of things that I have in the frame. So I have to be really aware of what's out there. Birmingham. Love Birmingham. Yeah, it's beautiful. I love the way the little downtown is in that little, it's like in a bowl kind of a thing. It's just really kind of pretty. Hey, Melissa. Thank you. Good to see your name, and good to see your thumbnail also. So yeah, I'm gonna work on these. I'm gonna do some painting. I was coming down here anyway to do a little painting on these columns. And if you're new and you didn't see this, I'm going to show it one more time just for the sake of folks that are joining. We're at 105 people. I'm sure out of 105, there are people who have no idea, A, who I am. Do you know who I am? And B, what the heck is this person I don't know? What is he doing? And I'm actually converting a clock cabinet. Hold, please. Let me grab something to show you. I am converting old clock cabinets into little scenes like this. This is a miniature scene inside. All of this is illuminated, so it's a little world inside there. Again, I'm kind of repeating last night's live because I had to take down my TikTok live. Guys, I apologize. I had to take down my TikTok live off of YouTube. I've got to get that straight. I keep messing that up. YouTube, TikTok. I have an archive of my live videos on YouTube. Hang on. You must do your utmost to be patient. I'm going to illuminate this. You just saw the lights come on. So here's the case. Let me open the door again, and you can see inside. So this is what I do. Convert these old empty clock cases into little worlds like this that are fully illuminated. There's a little fireplace in there. You can see that, and little toys and things like that that I find. Lots of wrap presents. So this is a little Christmas Eve scene. Yes, if you haven't seen it, yes, I'm sure there's a few people that probably have not seen it, but yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'll give you a full view. That's the back of it. Signed by Artful Roger. So that's it. I'm going to set this thing down. So again, this is the case that has the base that will go like that. So that's what we're working on. So tonight I'm just going to do a little painting. If you guys want to hang out with me while I do some painting, you're welcome to do that. I'll try to look at comments. Lori, I'm glad you're here for moderating my live that typically doesn't need much moderating unless I get controversial with things I talk about, which is rare. Yes, Lori, yeah, thank you that I have signed it, yeah. Sarasota, more beautiful places. All right, let me get a little Diet Coke in me. The clock cabinets. Hey, Preppy Bear. That's a good name, Preppy Bear. I like that. Two things that I like, preppies and bears. Do you find them at antique stores or estate auctions? I find them typically at antique stores, and I've said this before in my other lives and on my videos that I really like to support antique dealers in these antique malls because they go to the trouble of going to estate sales, which I don't like to go to, find it and typically clean it and put it in. So it's really an awesome thing. Yeah. I don't know what my phone is doing. Stop doing this. Decline. I don't know what it's doing. Stop doing that. All right. New features. Thank you, TikTok. Anyway, so that's where I find them typically. And that's where this one came from that we're working on tonight. So the case you just saw has columns on the sides. These are the little columns. And I've been painting these gold. And so I mixed my own gold paint, which is in here. I'm going to open this thing up and get busy. Going to start doing some painting with my trusty brush, which is right here. So yeah, this brush has a lot of miles on it. It's kind of ratty. You can see that. It's got a lot of miles, but I love it. This brush has never done me wrong. When you're painting like this, I'm working with acrylic paint, chalk paint, and this is acrylic paint that I'm working on. This is the gold that I'm using if you're interested in that. This came from Michael's. All right, let me get the painting here. It looks a little sloppy the way I'm painting, perhaps, but the reason it doesn't matter at this point because the paint is self-leveling and it won't matter after I get done with. So I'm going to put a little black wax on it to make it look aged, kind of create a look of copper. I'm sorry, a look of brass. I'm going for a look like this. This is going to be on top of the cabinet. This is actual real metal or brass. So I'm kind of trying to create that with my paint. We talked about this last night in the live. If anyone's excited about the Super Bowl, I think a few people were. I don't know what a Super Bowl is. Actually, I do know what one is, but I don't watch it. Some may say that that's un-American. Total silence. This is literally a live where you watch paint dry. This really is. I said this in another live that the only sports that I've ever done was dancing. So dancing as in dancing like on a team, on precision folk dancing is what I've done in the past. These days, yeah, I'm not a sporto. I never was. I played baseball when I was really young, and that was it. I've always been kind of more leaning in the direction of what you see me doing right now: paintbrushes, pencils, color, home decorating. I got all those genes. I am 100% that DNA. That's what I got. So retro Lego Jeff does not have any interest either. Yeah, my dad, my grandfather, my dad's dad, and my dad both were what you would call champion sportos. I mean, they both of them. My dad was a local celebrity in baseball and football in high school, and got a scholarship to college for his football playing. Did not go to college on the scholarship, instead joined the Navy back in 1959. And so that's the route he went. So my mom and dad had two children, my sister, and I'm the oldest, and there's me and then my sister. And so there was a lot of hopes pinned on this person right here carrying on the legacy of the family, being into ball playing and really getting it. And I just don't have any interest. My dad tried to make me do it. You know, I got pretty good at it my second year of Little League. I really started getting a feel for it. And did I get gold in the shirt already? I did, but it doesn't matter. It's a rag. But even though it's a rag, let's do this. Let's just get this gold paint off of there. That way, I don't need to worry about it. Anywho, yes. So, Alan, you like playing ball. Yeah, my grandfather played his semi-pro. He played for a team in Missouri or something like that, and they're from South Carolina. So I don't know how that worked out, but it was in the 40s. So it's been a while ago. Yeah. Alan, what kind of ball do you play? Waiting. So guys, you're just joining my live. I'm Artful Roger with a D, R-O-D-G-E-R. What I do is paint things and we watch them dry. So if you like watching paint dry, you have found the live of your dreams. Kidding, of course. I just happen to be painting tonight. We're upcycling a clock cabinet. I think I named this thing, I don't even think I named this live tonight, because typically I say what it is. So you like soccer and football? Awesome. Yeah. You know, I think it's hard for dads and maybe moms too that have interest in certain things and they have children and the kids don't tend to have what they have. I just didn't have it. Now my dad tried. He tried to meet me where I was. You know, they did enroll me in some art classes and stuff like that, you know, when I was younger. So they tried to meet me there. You know, they bought me a guitar when I was in 5th grade because I begged and begged for a piano when I was in 4th grade. They never got a piano. my dad and mom, my dad was military, so they moved around so much. I could see why now they never got a piano. And it was before you could buy an electronic keyboard, which would have been, who knows what I would have been doing. But I did end up with a guitar, which I still have, and play around with that a little bit. But yeah, more musical, artistic, and that's who I am. Hence the name Artful Roger. Yeah, my mom was. My mom was very creative, Gail. She was a creative person. She absolutely was. She passed away in 2001, but yeah, she was. She was always doing something. Her mother was the one who kind of, I'm more like her than anyone else, is my mom's mom, who was very artistic in all kinds of ways, but they were not trained artists. They were just, they did folk art. My grandmother grew a lot. She was a massive gardener. Planting, she taught me about planting plants and things like that. I really got all that from her. So the gold is done. That concludes this live. I'm kidding. Just joking. This live's going to go on for a little bit. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move on to putting some black chalk paint onto the cabinet. So we're going to move in that direction. I'm going to set these to the side. I think that's pretty good for now. These are looking pretty good. Oh, I see another address label. This is what got me in trouble last night, guys. This is why I had to take the YouTube video down. Someone said they could see my home address, and they found my house on Google Maps and sent me a picture of my own house. Frightening. Let me tell you, it's frightening. The person who sent it's not frightening. I don't believe. I don't know that he's on here, but let's just say, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it was my sister sent me a picture of my house from information she gathered off of one of my live sessions. I was a little bit, as the young people say, I was a little shook. So I'm doing this live tonight to not say I'm not doing any more lives, because that's the first thing that came out of my face is I'm not going to do any more lives, but I'm on here doing it because I need to face the fear, feel the fear, and do it anyway. That's all there is to it. But I'm glad because, like I said, moderator reached out to me last night and said your home address was showing, but I think it's grainy, and I don't think you can see it. So I didn't worry about it. I went ahead and uploaded the video. But yeah, Lourdes, I know I'm pronouncing that correct. Hello, welcome. You sent a rose. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Awesome. All right, we're going to do some black chalk paint. We painted this last night with a single coat, and so I'm going to go ahead and put the second coat on there. I would be afraid if they knew my address. Well, let's just say, Susie, that I'm afraid that I don't know who saw my address. But, if the doorbell rings at 2 a.m., I'm not answering it. I got this water on my shirt now. I'm not answering the door if the doorbell rings. Please. Please, please, please. It is a little bit unnerving. All right, let's get to painting. Somebody said on Facebook, I saw a Facebook post, someone had put their water bill on the neighborhood page. They posted their water bill because they had a question, but they didn't blot out their address. And so someone in the comments said, you really should cover up your home address because, it's privacy. People can see where you live. So someone in the comments said, that's not a big deal. All you have to do is Google the person's name. You know who they are, and you kind of know where they live, and you can get everything you want to know about them right off of Google. I said, no way. So I Googled myself standing there. Right after I just left Facebook and went right to Googling myself, and lo and behold, it was all there. I don't know if it's because it's my phone that I got so much information, but what's out there about us is really unnerving. But I guess that's the new normal. That's just how we live in the world now. See what I'm doing here? Just putting on this chalk paint. If you're not familiar with chalk paint, it is a wonderful paint to work with because it does not have any fumes. It's water-based. It's easy to clean up. It's easy to get off your skin if you get it on you. It's unforgiving. No, it's forgiving. And I'm the one that's unforgiving. I'm being unforgiving with myself for putting my home address on here. It self-levels for the most part, so it's really great for a project like this, so I really recommend it. It's probably an okay paint for kids to work with too, because the cleanup is easy. And this is a fun little project actually, because what we're doing is taking an old forgotten clock case that didn't have, no one's probably out there. I'm hearing that young people can't even tell time on an analog clock. So I don't think anyone's going to fix this old clock because there were no guts in it anyway. So what a great way to give it a new purpose. And hopefully it'll be something that will be around for a while. I'm hoping. And by the way, that's some of my other stuff back here that I do. So that's what's behind me. We do live in a crazy world, Susie. I think we've always lived in one. We just have more information. All right, so there's that. So I am able to look at, you're on the hunt. I am able to look at comments. So if there's some subject that you want me to blab about, because I'm the only one that can blab on these lives, I will be glad to blab. So, feel free to put anything on there. Cursive writing, I know. All that stuff is going away. That is for sure, Stuart. We're losing those things. But I think cursive is, I heard that they were bringing that back, that they weren't going to abandon it after all. I know I do trainings for work. I do electrical training is what it is. It's basic electrical, but it's a task that has to be performed. So I do it all the time. And one of the things that I have to tell them is there's a part that's it's upright like this, but you have to tip it either to the left or the right just a little bit, and I say things like tip it to the 11 o'clock position or the 1 o'clock position, don't have it at 12 noon. Well, I'm finding that the younger people don't know what I'm talking about. I get blank stares because they don't understand or are not familiar enough with an analog clock of what 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock means. So I had to change how I did that. Now I just say tip it a little to the left or the right, and that works perfectly. No one has to know anything else. But that's the beauty of being nearly 60, is that I'm from another time now. I'm from another generation. I'm a fuddy-duddy, as they say. Chicken soup. Now, chicken soup, I haven't ever seen you before. I think you're new to the live because I think I would remember a name like chicken soup for sure. The 1900s. Yeah, isn't that funny? I was born, in what they're calling the middle of the 1900s. Yeah, Lori, you're right behind me. Yep, you're the same age as my sister, evidently. A 1965 baby. You can see how easy this goes on. It's pretty great because the paint dries chalky, you can see very easily where you've already painted. So it's pretty easy. Be nice, Lisa. Although I will tell you that my great-grandparents, I remember my great-grandparents' house. It was 1970, 1971. I think this is when my memory stuck there. But they had electricity in their house, but it was one light bulb hanging on a piece of wire in the middle of every room. They did not have running water in the house. They had an outhouse. There was no bathroom in the house. The kitchen had a wood cook stove in it, and the sink was one of those pumps that you pump water out of a well, so you had to take the handle and pump water up into the sink. That's how my grandparents were living in 1970. My great-grandparents, I'm sorry. It amazes me that still existed in 1970. I mean, they had a TV in their house too, and they also had a picture in their living room of John F. Kennedy. Those are the things I remember about my great-grandparents. But they lived on a farm, they lived on acreage. So things have really changed a lot in that amount of time, for sure. Thanks, Chicken Soup. I'm glad. Thank you for telling me that you're watching these lives, and they're on YouTube as well in my archive under my name, Artful Roger with the D, Rodger. You did. So yeah, you shoveled coal into like a furnace in the basement type thing, into a boiler. Is that what you mean? Like one of those operations? I've never lived in a house with steam heat, so I don't know what that would have been like to have radiators and all that. I know that was up north, but it didn't have that in the south. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we get to tell those old-timey stories that people don't know what we're talking about. And rotary dial telephones. You know, there was one phone in the house, and then we all of us that are my age, you went through the wonderful time when cordless phones came around. You know, when you had a phone base with the antenna you pulled out and you could walk around the house without the cord, and that was such a great thing. Then the answering machines became a thing, and that was wonderful. You know, little did we know that we would have my phone, this is my phone with my own personal number, that I'm using as a camera, broadcasting out to 77 people out there in the darkness that I don't know. Oh yeah, we've talked about phone numbers. We all remember phone numbers. Yes, we and my parents had a party line. It rang short rings. Short rings were our house, but if it was a long ring, that was the neighbor's. But if you answered on the long ring, you answered their phone. You know, it was the neighbor's house. But yeah, we had a party line. It was less expensive, I think, for people to have that. Private lines were more expensive. You also had to rent the telephones from the telephone company that were in your house. So my parents, I don't think they had a second phone in the house until I was in high school, that they finally put a phone in their bedroom. Yes, good old radiator heat. Yeah, back in 1850. Yeah, I know. I remember that. People listening in on party line calls because all you had to do was pick up the phone in your house and you could listen. And you know, it's funny because we still say hang up the phone and we still say pick up the phone. And all of those things were literal things you did. You literally picked up the handset and you literally put it back on the hook to hang it up. So, you know, those are things that they're sticking around, even though we don't really do those things anymore. Young people probably have no idea where that came from. But let Grandpa tell you. Welcome to Grandpa's Live, where Grandpa's going to tell you all about the good old days when we did things better, cheaper, and faster. And you know I'm just kidding. They weren't all good old days. They're just like today's days. Some are good, some aren't so good. That hasn't changed at all. I still have the same kind of days. I just had one this evening when I found out my home address had been leaked. It was one of my moments. It's called Hello Darkness, My Old Friend. That's kind of what was happening. I had to come and do this live tonight to get myself out of it because I became petrified with, let's just say I became mortified. That's what happened. They'll never understand how we lived. Exactly. They will not. And it's hard to describe it. Yes, I like talking to my kids about the good old days. But they were. You know, I talked about this last night. The time when there was no air conditioners. I mean, I know air conditioning is very pleasant. But we lived in a world with no air conditioning for the most part. They advertised it. If a store had air conditioning, it was like, come on in, it's air conditioned. You know, motel hotels had a sign out that said air conditioned because it was a novelty. You know, no one had it, so we were used to it. I don't know how we did it. My sister and I remember us back in the 80s. She had a 1974 Volkswagen Beetle. It had no air, and I had a 1969 Volkswagen Beetle, and mine had no air. But we would take road trips together. We would go out together and stuff and be dressed in our Genera and our Union Bay and whatever else, you know, I can't remember the brand she wore back then. What was it? Bobby Brooks and all that stuff. I don't remember what she was wearing, but I remember what I was wearing. But nice clothes is my point. And it was 100 degrees. And all we had was a vent window. And you opened it and you drove somewhere for an hour to get there. And you just we had to be gamey. People had to be gamey. I don't know. But that's how everyone lived. So no one thought about it. But today, if I were dressed to go somewhere and got in my car and drove in 100-degree heat with no air conditioning, I would be melted to bits. I mean, there would be nothing left but just a puddle, probably a bunch of wet clothes. So I think we were just acclimated to it. And yes, we did survive. Scraping frost from the inside of the windows. That's absolutely right. I do remember Buster Brown. Buster Brown shoes were for kids. Yeah, I think I had Buster Brown shoes as a little kid. But, of course, I wasn't wearing Buster Brown. You probably remember Sperry Topsiders. I think Sperry's still out there. No, I haven't been on here very long. I don't think very long. I'm not sure what the duration is. Melissa, I'm answering you. I just jumped on here because I had to take down the archive video from last night because my home address was on it. It was on one of the shipping labels. So someone was able to find my house. No one came to my house, but they did tell me that someone had let me know that it was visible and that they could find it on Google Maps. So I had to take it down. Yeah, oh no is right. So I'm doing this live tonight to get past my fear of doing this anymore. I really had a moment where I was like, what am I doing? Am I out of my mind? You know, I'm on here being very public, and you know, everything that's in the background, I don't pay attention to a lot of the little details. I don't think about what people might be looking at. And so while I'm doing this thinking, hey, look at my painting, they're zooming in on something in the background, you know, so it's different. Yeah, and air conditioning was a luxury. My parents had their first house with central air in 1974. It was a brand new house. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, but it had central air, heating and air. Forced air furnace, you know, there was no mess. It was gas heat. There was no, you know, you didn't have to go down to stoke it with coal or anything like that. And I remember my bedroom had a vent in it, a register, and just having that cool air coming out in the summer, it was heaven on earth, you know. But we sure acclimated to that quickly. That is for sure. Yeah, just putting a second coat of black chalk paint on this clock case. I'm not exactly being a pro when it comes to painting this because I'm going to be distressing it anyway. Give it a kind of a distressed, you know, weathered look when I'm done with it. So I'm not overly concerned about my painting being perfecto. It can just be the way it is. But I think I got it. It's starting to dry already. I do have a hair dryer down here, a blow dryer. I could make it go faster, but you can see where the little columns go right here. This is where they go. For the love of Pete. Now, I'm thinking, no, if you just said the love of P-E-A-T, we'd have been talking about Pete Moss, but I'm not sure who P-E-E-T is. Oh, Nerds and Bones. Hello. I'm so glad you're here, and I love calling you Nerds and Bones because it's Nerds and Bones, which I just love. And I think that's a wrench, but I call it, maybe it's a wrench. I don't know. Am I looking at Nerds and Bones? I am. Those are bones. For the love of Pete. All right, love of Pete. Melissa, are you still there? Melissa? Give me a sign that you're still there. Waiting for Melissa. Melissa. Melissa, hit the comments. Melissa, say, I am still here. Yes. Okay, Melissa. Keep your eyes open because I'm about to show you what we're doing. You see this? This is the one I'm working on now, okay? I'm going to set this down. And those of you who have been on this live already, do not roll your eyes. I'm going to show this thing again. And stop looking in the background. My home address is not back there. Okay. This is what we're doing. Melissa, I need Melissa to react. You see this, Melissa? This is an old clock cabinet. This was a piece of junk that we started on a live several, probably sessions ago, and this one's fully done. This is it. So, painted, feet added, hardware, finial on top. The bezel, I mixed the paint to match the bezel. Everybody who's been on here 100 times is saying, oh my God, we have to see this again. So look inside. It's a little room. It's a little girl having Christmas. There's all of her gifts. She's looking at her little piece of candy on top of the gift. And then there's the little grandfather clock, which is an old metal toy, fireplace, wall sconce. Yeah, so this is what we're doing. This is what we're working on tonight. So right now, what I'm doing is putting the black paint onto the other case. The room in the case we're working on now, that room is much smaller. It's a tiny space inside the clock cabinet I was just painting. That one is going to be a 1920s Great Gatsby theme. It's going to be, instead of having a child, like we see here, we're going to have an adult, hopefully. And I looked on eBay tonight, actually, at kind of, what is it, Art Nouveau. I think 1920s was Art Nouveau. I looked on there at different figures. I saw a couple of female figures, women in like a flapper dress kind of style. I'm wanting a porcelain figure like that with not a lot of detail. I want it to be sort of vague as far as all the details so that you can transfer yourself onto that if you wanted to. So the viewer, when they look into the case, that's what they'll see. So that one is going to have, I've already purchased a chandelier, which is a kind of a French Empire style handmade little crystal chandelier that's going to hang in the hang off to the side. We're going to have a white or a champagne colored tree. I purchased tile for the floor today. I did. You guys suggested that I do a black and white tile, and I did a black, white, and with cream veining in the tile with some detail along the edge of the wall. So we're going to do something kind of a 1920s. I'm thinking marble floors. I'm not sure about the wall. I showed you this last night. This is silver, but I'm really, you can see, I don't know if the sparkles, there it is, you can see it now. There's the sparkle. But I'm really in love with this. No, I have not sold one of these yet. I've given them as gifts, but I have not sold one. Henry. This live is because of you. Thank you for the email. I have not responded because I had a moment. I went into a very dark place because of me telling myself that I was not a very smart person for not looking at the shipping label. And so I had to do this live tonight to try to get past my fear of ever doing a live again. So I'm being aware of what's in my background. I'm trying to watch myself because, you know, guys, I really appreciate all of you. But there are certain things that, you know, when I'm broadcasting out to people that I don't know and my home address is out there and people can find me on Google Maps, I get a little nervous. So I'm like, not that you could find me, but anyway. Melissa, glad you like it. So this is hoping to be my wallpaper. But you see, the problem with this is scrapbook paper. And the issue I'm having with this is because the scale is not quite right. This is really big, and I'm afraid that it won't look right inside the small space. So I may be trying to find, yeah, Keith, thank you for understanding. I think you're talking about what I just said. If I'm giving it away, you'll fly and pick it up. Yeah, I don't know that I'm giving away these things. I've got to figure out what I'm going to do. And I did think about that last night after the live was done. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to keep building these things, and they're going to pile up. Because I've sold things on Etsy. You know, I've sold quite a few things, of pieces of my other art. My steampunk stuff is sold on there many, many times. But I haven't sold these Christmas things. But evidently, you guys are really liking these things, so they might be sellable. But meanwhile, back at the wallpaper, I think I'm going to have to either find some bespoke wallpaper that's in Art Nouveau style, 1920s. I'm going to try this paper out and see how it looks, but I think the scale is off. I think it's not going to work. So, but it is going to be silver. Is the theme that I'm using. Although, I'm in love with this. I'm really in love with this paper, this scrapbook paper. You can see the design on there. I'm loving the shine that I'm getting and this kind of taupe-ish, what would you call that? Mushroomy kind of shade of brown. I just really like it a lot. It's a gray brown. I would love to use this in something. So this is either going to be flooring or wall, and I don't know. But I'm not sure that it's going to work in this one we're doing tonight, the one that's going to have the white tree in it and such. And the trees I work with are these little bottle brush trees. So this is just a green tree, of course, as you can see. This, by the way, in case you don't know, is a green tree. This tree will not be used, but it's about the scale. I have it here to use for scale inside the space. So, anyone else have questions about this cloche, this particular cabinet or case? Thank you, Lisa. I answered a question. I'm glad. I didn't see it, but I answered it. I wish that I know that there is there's an app out there that you can get that reads your comments to you in an earpiece, but I have not done that yet. Kudos. Thank you. Yes. I did not hand paint the swirls. These swirls were on there, and let me show you. So you see that design that's there. That was already there, pressed into the wood. I think it was pressed with a tool. This is an antique case. So when I work with these, the wood in here is ancient. It is so old. Let me deal with my paintbrush. Where is it? Here it is. The paint is still drying on this one, but you can see that this one has, you see the designs along the edge here? Let me get my hands over here. You can see it right here. You can see the design right there. This one is not very deeply pressed into the wood, so it's going to be very hard for me to trace it. And I was tracing it with a very fine point gold paint pen. That's what this is. This is a Pilot product. I think it's like, I forget, I think it's like very fine, whatever. I don't remember what the millimeter point is, but that's how I got the design on this one, is by using the paint pen and going into the grooves that are in the wood. But this one, likely not to happen. What I do have though, this is one of many bins of old brass. And so I have all this old brass, like things I could use to, like these corner pieces. You see that has a little cherub on it. These are not very cute. This is not a cute cherub. So I won't be using these, and I only have 3 of these actually. So I would need 4, because I was thinking about something like this that would be, like in these corners, like right here, using them like that, because I could paint these gold. This is the way it would go. So that I could paint these gold, and it would be here. And the bezel, I already have the bezel in the glass that goes here as well on the front. Yeah. Yeah, these clock cases you'll find them at antique stores. They're gutted. This one I found, I was in Charleston, South Carolina last January of 23. And I found this in somebody's booth. It was just a shell. It was dirty, filthy dirty. It was like $30 for it. Filthy dirty 30 is what it was. But yes, so I bought that there because I really was intrigued by the case itself. Yeah, Keith, I've been asked that several times. The reason I don't do it, I typically am working with vintage stuff. Halloween, I don't know. I can't find old Halloween stuff. It seems because it was so ephemeral for parties, people threw it in the garbage. It just disappeared. So there's not a lot of really cool vintage out there. And if there is any out there, it's super expensive, so I don't use it. The other thing is, a lot of people do it, and Halloween is, I don't know. I'm just not feeling it. So I love Halloween, but not that. Grooves, yes, there are grooves in it, absolutely. Ansonia clock, yeah. So these feet right here on this one, those are Ansonia feet that, these are reproductions. I think somebody on eBay, made a mold of these clock feet, and they were pouring these themselves. These are aluminum feet. They had to paint them gold, but I bought all their cast feet. They're hard to find, and so it's really cool that they had made these new, and because they're based on the original Ansonia clock feet. I've only made, the only molds I ever made, and I think it's upstairs. It is. Dang it. I took a lot of my other art upstairs. I made molds of a cherub face, because I made a piece with a bunch of faces in it. So I made the mold that you do it with a glue gun. You can make a mold on a metal piece with a glue gun. And it's pretty cool. And then you can just press your clay into that, dry it, and you're good to go. Thank you, Tanya. I appreciate that. Is brick actual brick behind me, Jeffrey? It is not. It is a photo backdrop. That's a drywall wall back there. And originally it had a bunch of license plates on it and stuff. That was my first live, and it was very distracting. A big sign that said men working was back there. And so I decided to just put that out on the wall it's just a better background. So yeah, I guess it looks pretty real, when you're looking at it through the phone. And I guess that's the reason that they sell it. It's on Amazon. Yeah, you did a horse head with molds. Yeah, you can do it. You can take an old, take a vintage spelter figure probably, or bronze or something, and take a glue gun and put glue all over it and then peel it off, and you can use that as a mold to make things. Now I'm enjoying your comments while I wait for paint to dry. I'm not going to make you watch paint dry. If you guys hang out for 1 second, I'm going to grab another clock face. I want to show it to you. I think I showed this in some live some time ago, but I want you guys just to see it because it's really cool. I'm not inspired by this thing. I bought it, but I don't know what to do with it. So I'm going to show it to you. Who knows? You guys might have an idea, because sometimes there are people on these lives that have really, really good ideas. So what I'm about to do is step away from here and go over to my Mad Scientist studio to grab that piece. While I'm gone, please don't zoom in on things and try to find my home address. Okay, do that for me, all right? I can trust you that you're not going to be zooming in on the background, right? Okay, I'll be right back. So I actually found a couple of things, actually. And I'm getting a low battery warning on my phone, so bear with me just a moment while I fix this. That's called me putting my, plugging my phone into the charger. Hopefully it survives. So let's see. That's one of those things I forgot to do. All right, so I'm back. I still have you guys. No one's lost. All right, so here's what I want to show you. So this is a front of some sort of a clock. You can see that. And it has this glass window here where the pendulum would have been, behind it. You would have seen the pendulum doing this number here, tick, 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 tick. But isn't this thing magnificent, though? Look at the detail at the top of this. It's just really beautiful. And I bought this because I loved it, all the detail on it. But I don't know what to do with it yet. I have not figured it out, because it's it's just a shell piece, and it evidently attached to something. You can see where screws attached, so I don't know what it was. So it is stunning. But it's been in my studio for 1.5 years now, and it has not found any use. I don't even know what to do with it upstairs. So I'm still trying to figure this out. So someday, maybe, I'll figure out what I'm going to do with it. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. I could wear it as a mask for Halloween, I guess. I could use it in the garden, but it's too awesome. I'm afraid I don't want it to get ruined. I want to, I don't know. It may not be something that this guy here ever figures out, but somebody will, hopefully someday. Yeah. Yeah, maybe so. I could do that. I could attach it to something so you're looking into it. I'm gonna build a box for it so it goes through here, so you're looking at, because you can see it's square. You see the squareness to it already right here. You've already got the shape, so maybe you could do something with it. And this, evidently, I just realized, is a door. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm gonna figure it out someday, maybe, or it may be in the estate sale. When I've turned into ashes. So let me talk to you about something else while I'm here, because I saw this in my Mad Scientist studio. You've probably seen figures like this before. If you are an antique person, not an antique person, that would be me. I'm nearly antique. But you may be shopping for antiques or something like that. This figure is made of spelter. This is pot metal, also known as pot metal. There were a lot of these made. Typically was inexpensive, has been inexpensive, but as of late, because this styling is starting to come back into vogue again, these are really starting to fetch a pretty high price. This lady here was on a mantle clock that I purchased, but she has issues. She's missing a finger here, and she is missing something is broken off right here. I'm not sure what it is, but she actually was on a clock at some point. She's missing a leg of her chair too, or something. Yeah, the legs of her chair are broken off. They're missing a leg, and this one's broken. So She's got a lot of issues. That's why she's down here in the basement. I replaced the figure that was on the mantle clock with a man who was reading a book, and so it was in really good condition. These are great if you like to get, if you want a figure look in your house, you want to have this antique look. These were made probably around the turn of last century. A lot of them, they could be in the late 1800s perhaps. But spelter was very common. It's very easy to clean it. It's very easy to paint it. You can do a bronze technique on this and do a black wax over these, and it really brings out a lot of the detail. Like you see the detailing in the hair here. But you can bring all that out and really create something that looks amazing in your house. It's not bronze, but it can look that way. So you can look back at my video history. I'm looking over there because my mad scientist laboratory is over there, and I'm thinking about what's in there that I could show you. But these are really awesome. I love spelter figures. I always have. I've collected them on and off most of my adult life. She's down here because I've got to fix her finger. And she's an example of, you guys talked about making molds. I could make a mold maybe of another finger on another figure and make a finger with clay. So I could actually make a finger here and put it on there and then paint it over, because somebody else painted it gold. This isn't my gold, but yeah, she could be fixed. Oh, and I just noticed, looks like she's got a fractured ankle. You can see the crack there, so it broke off at some point, and someone may have glued it back on. Yeah, she's taken a few hits. So here's the story of this lady too. Let me tell you about her. I have a friend, a very, very close friend, who runs an estate sale business, and I was at, he was doing, I think it was his crew had just started to put the house together, go through it. And I went in, we just went there, stopped by there one night just to see it. And the mantle clock that I ended up buying on the last day of their sale is the one I have, but she was on the clock. But as I was looking in the office, I found a black and white photograph, and it turned out to be the lady who had passed away. It was her house that I was in, but it's when she was a little girl, and she was standing there with what looked like her parents. She was, in the 1940s and early 40s, and in the background you could see the fireplace and the mantle, and this figure and the clock were on the mantle behind it. I showed it to him and I said, hey, this is the same clock that's on the mantle still, so it must have been something that was handed down from her parents to her, and her kids evidently didn't want it. But because I have it, it's down in my house, because I absolutely love it, and I love the story. But the photograph he ended up giving back to the family, and I so wish that I had a copy of it to go with the clock, because that's something that I would, as a collector of antiques, I would have photocopied that and put that inside the clock, actually, so that it would have stayed with it. So when my estate sale time comes and it drifts out into the world, that story would go with it, because unfortunately that story will die with me, because I'm not writing that down. So, but anyhow, this is spelter. So that was your lesson in spelter figures. So it's hollow, just hollow stuff. You see that? It's very brittle too. So if I hit this with something, it would break. It would break off. So it's very brittle. Is there a picture of this metal clock? You mean the mantle clock? Is that what you're talking about, Tammy? I know. Tell me about it. I could have done that. You're totally right. Pam, thank you for telling me that almost 2 years after the fact. You just made me feel better. The clock that I'm talking about, yes, it is in my video history. I did a video about spelter, and I can't remember. I think it was sometime before Christmas, just before Christmas. So if you look at my video history, you'll see a cluster of Christmas videos, and then before that, there's a picture, and I do show the mantle clock, and it shows the new figure on it. Yeah. The male figure that is reading a book. The trim on the clock should be oxblood red. So which clock? You're talking about the one I'm working on tonight? Arthur? I'm all eyes for you, Arthur. I'm looking here because I'm looking at a massive screen where I can see the letters that are this big. Yeah, so on the new one, oxblood red. That's interesting. Are you saying that because of the era that we're using, because we're going with a more Art Nouveau style? And kind of hitting that 1920s vibe? Oh yeah, okay, cool. That's something I think about. These ideas, when you guys say these things to me, I don't instantly do it, but it gets into my brain and it starts working. So it's cooking in there. So let me think about that. I've really stuck with gold. mostly because I'm working with brass parts. And so like on this one, I added this finial to the top because it didn't exist. And then I had the bezel from another clock, the metal bezel. So I had to work that out. And that's why the gold is on here, because everything else is brassy and gold. But the red would look really good with the gold too. Oxblood would look awesome with the gold features, with the brass pieces. So, will you be selling vintage Christmas ornaments? Well, I did say that in a live, and why I said that is because I have thousands of vintage ornaments now, and it probably would be a good idea for me to maybe set up an eBay account and start selling my ornaments, because there's so many of them, and why not just send them into the world now. The only ornaments I probably would not sell right now would be the ones on the TikTok tree, the one with the silver tree, the champagne tree with the round ornaments. That one is still Chipper. Hey Chipper, I'm back on tonight, Chipper. I told you I'd just pop on, so that's what I'm doing. So whatnot, I'll look into that, Vivi. Love that name, Vivi, by the way. That's an awesome name. I'm sure it's short for Vivian, perhaps, but good. Yeah, Chipper. Everybody loves Chipper. Chipper's so popular. Milo the dog. I love the creative names people do. Yes. A special treat, exactly. This live is your special treat. I'll have to do that. Arthur, it's hard for me when I'm doing these lives because I'm not down here with anything to write with, and this brain only holds so much information. And usually after this live is complete, I am so keyed up from it that I have to go to download. You know, I have to maybe sit and watch mindless TV or something like that for a bit. That's right, Chipper. You deserve every single bit of that. You deserve all that, so take it in. Chipper Doodle is so popular. She's the star of my lives. Okay, that is really good, Arthur. Thank you for saying that to me, because I really am going to think about that for sure. A glass of spirits. Yeah, that's how you say it on TikTok. I'm getting this black paint off of me. All right, I'm going to move this. Everyone has seen this and enjoyed it. So those of you who have just joined, this is what we're working on. Not this one. This is one we just finished in another live series of live sessions. We're working on a new cabinet. So I'm going to get this out of my way. It looks like this is the one we painted last night. A little bit of discoloration here. I don't know what happened. I think I'm going to put just a touch of paint across the front of this again, just because. Thank you, Chipper. Chipper, you're one of my biggest fans. And guess what, Chipper? I'm one of your biggest fans. So it's a two-way street. Thank you, Carolyn. That's very kind. And I know you mean that too, but it's very kind that you shared it, so thank you. I'm just putting a little bit of paint on the front of this thing because it doesn't look quite right. Again, I'm working with chalk paint. Highly recommend it. Super easy to work with. This stuff, I bought this at Michael's. You can buy it at Home Depot, but I usually don't buy tons of paint at once, or gallons of chalk paint or quarts. It's just too much. But it's easy to mix and work with. And you don't have to be too terribly careful. Like you can see, I'm not being too terribly careful. What did you use for the ones in the back? These are a whole different process. Those are cake stands and cake toppers, glass toppers, cloche covers that I did with those. And those are also, hey Frog Guy, welcome. You've never been in an Artful Roger Live before? That's an awesome name, and your thumbnail, that is one of those, that's not a poison dart frog, I hope. Well, welcome, I'm glad you're here. Groovy! Yeah, I'm live, Groovy. I am live. The reason I'm live, I'm going to say it one more time. I had to take down last night's live in the archive on YouTube. Those of you who have already heard this 12 times, sorry. My home address was visible on my little drawing box for the columns. So someone let me know that they could find me on Google Maps. They found my house and sent me a picture of it. Terrified party of one. That's what happened here. So while I laid and writhed in agony of how foolish I had been, thinking about I'm never doing a live again, I decided I'm going downstairs and doing a live so I can just get this over with. I'm just going to have to be more aware. It pushed all my buttons, my childhood trauma where I'm repeating things, where I was called stupid and dumb, and that's how I felt. I was just like telling myself, you were so naive. How could you do that? Why didn't you look at the label? You know, all that stuff that a lot of us do to ourselves. And I said, the only way I'm going to be able to combat this is to get back on here and just do it. And so here I am. So I am glad. Yes, AJ, I understand. Thank you for helping me feel better. I appreciate that. That helps so much, AJ. That totally, my anxiety just went totally down. I'm totally zen now that you said that. Let me go. I'm going to call my realtor. Little B, you are absolutely right about that. You are totally right. That's what I'm kidding you too, AJ. I'm only joking. The thing, and you know that. Yes. You found out it was gone. I'm so sorry. The live last night was really good, and I watched it myself. I watched it again, the whole thing, because I don't get to watch it, so I watched it again. I thought it was really good. And I really struggled with taking it down. And I said, I just can't leave it up there. I'm just too nervous, you know, because it's there, and I can't fix it. I can't go back and black it out. I tore the label off the box. But I'm aware, yes. Vivi Thirsty, I missed something. Groovy, I'm going to reach through and I'm going to go smack, smack. How many times did I say it in last night's live that I have a YouTube channel? Yes, it's a YouTube archive. It's Artful Roger. Don't forget, Roger with a D, R-O-D-G-E-R on YouTube. And I'm archiving these lives. So that's where they are. Chipperdoodle, AJ92, he is married. Yes, I'm married. And we're just going to go ahead and get this over with. I'm married to Steve, so do the math. 2 plus 2 equals, let's see, calculate, divide, and carry the 1. Yes, now you know. Guys, don't start fighting. I have a moderator, and you will be knocked out of the live, and I don't want that to happen. Yes, we love Steve. My moderator will ticky-tappy you right out of the live, so don't argue. And I think this is supposed to be fun. And we're all teasing each other. It's all good. Okay, my phone's doing something again. Stop it. Thank you, Lori. Yes, Roger with the D. Yes, you can subscribe to it. I know, Vivi, don't worry about it. Vivi, do not leave my live. You've got to stick. A name like Vivi belongs in my live, so remain, please. So yeah, check it out on YouTube because I'm archiving these lives. This one, when it's done tonight, I'll archive it as well so you can look at it. Tap and sap and you're gone. I even have one of my friends on here that is not on tonight because she doesn't know that I'm on live, but she is also a moderator, and she will police the hooey out of this thing for sure. Sneaky, sneaky. So yeah, so put another coat on this of some paint. So that didn't help. But look how quickly this chalk paint dries. See, this is already dried, and look at how nice that is. It's super smooth. I love chalk paint. Guys, I love it. And it's so many wonderful colors too. So you could have done this in, if you want to do it in a color, you could. I like the drama of black as a background because it really makes the interior really, really magic. Roger as in Dodger. That's exactly right. Yeah, this looks super great. So what I'll do with this later, once this is fully cured, I'm just going to take a sponge, sanding sponge, and I'm going to go over this and take off some of the edge paint, and then I'll spray it with polyurethane, and that will seal it. Yeah. Yeah, I think, Henry, I just answered that question. Yeah, this will be sealed with poly once it's done, and it won't rub off. And the polyurethane is, my poly, I think it's water-based. I have two kinds. I have one's oil, one's water. I'm probably going to cover this with oil. You know, last time I did the other one, remember I had to repaint it because I sprayed it with oil, and then I put water base on top of that, and it just was a disaster. I had to completely sand and clean that cabinet or case all over again and start over. Arthur, you're saying that you're asking about this piece right here. Did I make this? This is an antique case, and we are turning it into something. No, I've taken it apart, and we are working on it. Yeah. Julie, welcome to the live. You weren't here earlier when we talked about it. Antique Mall. This is where I find most of these things. These are empty clock cases. Love my convertible. I had my friend's convertible here, by the way. It was parked right here in this tandem garage for a little while back in the fall. It was a M2 something, I think an M240 little BMW that she was leaving here temporarily while she was in California. And I had it for 2 months. And let me tell you, I had some fun with that car. That was because I had the key and she wanted me to drive it. So there's nothing like October in Atlanta and a convertible, especially a car that's an M Series Beamer. It kicks some rear end. Let's just say it was super fun. Definitely a Barbie car. That's what I called it. And the person's car, the woman who owns it, looks sort of like a Barbie. She's sort of like that. Love you. I don't think, the reason I use water-based paint is because I can clean it up easily. This is just a wet towel. And like I said, I've got some gold paint here on my shirt earlier. This will come out in the laundry, but I can just wipe it off. But I look like it's red. Oh, so you said comfortable. You must mean convertible, right? You have a red convertible? Do you have a red BMW convertible? Oh, some of the things to go inside. Chipper, we saw it. You do. You have a red. See, I think the BMW convertibles, those are hot cars. They really are. They're good looking. And BMW is kind of my brand. You know, I drove Volkswagens for most of my young life. That was my brand. I went through a Honda phase for a short time, and then I started driving my Beamers in 2016. That's when I got the first one. And so, yeah, I love them. I just think they're awesome. They're good looking cars. So anyway, and this friend of mine, happened to buy an M Series convertible, which she left here temporarily because she knew that I was kind of an enthusiast, if you will, for that kind of stuff. Anyway, I did not make this. Oh, it's a VW. Just said it. I'll take a VW. Love it. Yes, Drew, we're making another one. Welcome back, Drew. It's been a while. Yes, we're doing another cabinet. This is the one I'm painting tonight. The other one is finished. It's right here. I just showed that just a moment ago. Yeah, so it's sitting there. Yeah. So, Chipper, you wanted to see some things that are going inside. We don't really have much at this point. We actually don't have anything that's going in this one because it's going to be Art Nouveau 1920s, and so I'm still looking for stuff. We're going to let it find me. Yeah, they're both German. That's, if you're saying that to me, absolutely. Yeah. Buick Regals are awesome. Yeah, Drew, thank you. Yeah, it did turn out. I'm going to tell you, these things they're so magical how they happen and how things find me. The little pieces, like, we have no idea. But guess what? I'm doing this live again tonight so I can put this one on YouTube without my home address on it. But we're going to have this so we can have an archive of how this looks now, because there's going to be a point in the future when you're going to be looking through this little round porthole here at something amazing. And we don't know what it is yet because we haven't found the figure that's going to go in it. I have not built nor found the Christmas tree that's going in it. The chandelier, I do know is going in it. I'm pretty sure. But the chandelier has been ordered, so it should be here shortly. And so we have it. Lori, thank you for being back. I bow to you, my moderator. The little Bistall, no, the little Bistall's in the other. Jack, have you not seen, Jack 5227, you did not see the other clock cabinet finished? Have you not seen it? I'm looking at comments. Yeah, yes, I am doing that, Bibby. Yeah, the other one is finished. Jack, have you seen it? Have you seen the finished one with the little girl figure in it, the little toddler? You're going to have to shop your shop again. You should. But again, if you guys find anything out there you think is interesting, remember what I told you last night, especially if you find a figure and you want to talk to me about it. Take a picture of it, send it an email, and put one of these next to it so I know how tall it is, because I need to know for scale. I need to understand that. Yes, I'm going to show that cabinet one more time. Hang on one second. I'm doing this for the people who just joined. This is the one we finished. This, the little girl figure's in here. Open. There she is. You see her standing there? So I'm doing this for Jack. Jack and some numbers, 5472, something like that. So this is the one where we used her. This cabinet. So this is the one that we saw. I love it, Chipper. Every single time I show it, you're like, that's amazing. But it really is. And this thing, I wish you guys could be here in person. And if you saw my live last night, you'd know where my house is. So you probably could show up at 2 a.m. and say, let me see the cloche. But if you could see this in the dark, it is really, really, really amazingly magical. And because these things happen to me, similar to how they're happening to you, I'm just blown away by these things when they first get done. I just can't stop staring at them. It's so beautiful. Yeah. But it really is cute, isn't it? This was Henry's idea here. I don't know if Henry's still on the live, but this was his idea to do the marking on here, which really turned out great. I wasn't going to do it, but it really turned out great. Ebby, welcome back. Thank you for your very kind comment this afternoon on that little musing that I posted with that ocean picture, that ocean video. That ocean is in Mexico, near Puerto Vallarta. I was there right before COVID, and I stood on a cliff and took that video. And isn't that ocean insanely beautiful? I just have had that in my phone for how long? Almost 4 years. 4 years it's been in my phone, and just now found a place for it to go. And I think it really works well. Yes, so thank you, Henry, for this. All right, set this to the side. Okay, I am going to deal with this paintbrush. Closing the black paint. I know, Ebby and Vivi, I love it. Yeah, I do. I love both those names. So Ebby reminds me of and Ebby, do not get offended by this. In the Christmas Carol, Ebenezer Scrooge's sister calls him Ebby. That's his nickname. So when I see your name, I think of that. The chandeliers, love my Volkswagen convertible. They come from, you can find them. There are sellers on eBay. If you go to eBay, you can find them there. Etsy also has them. There's another seller. It's a man and his wife. They're both artists, and they are in Illinois. They made. I got to show you this. You got to see this. Hang on. I'm taking the glass off. Hold on. I'm bringing over the cord. You have got to see these people's work. So we're going to bring this in close. This thing looks like a coconut cake to me because I'm used to working with the clock cases now. So this right here, look at that chandelier. Stop wiggling. If it'll stop swinging, I'm going to bring it in close. But isn't that chandelier amazing? So this man and his wife, both artists, that is a crystal chandelier. They made that themselves. It is amazingly stunning. And the reason I purchased it is because they're artists. I've sold 3,500 pieces of my own art, and people supported me, wrote me emails, and paid the price that I wanted for my art, and never asked me for a discount. And so I bought the chandelier from them. But isn't that amazing in this little cloche? So this is under glass. You can see the outside. This is all made of foam core. Foam core with a 12-volt system. Yeah, so the little figures in here are spun cotton Christmas ornaments from the 1950s and 60s, made in Japan. And those, they're the reason I build these. I build a little world for them. This is a mixed scale piece, meaning that it's dollhouse scale 112 and dollhouse scale 124. So I use both of the scales. I mix it. But yeah, isn't this really cool? And again, I did this one this year. There was another, I think I had another one on top of this and I tore it down, or it's the other one. But anyway, these I've been building since 2009. And this is like nothing. This is like a feather. There is nothing to this but foam core. And this is this is hollow underneath this metal base. And the reason I use it is so I can hide all the wiring that goes to the lighting. It's hidden inside here on the bottom of that. So I don't think I can tip it. No, I'm not going to tip it over too far, but anyway, so that's it. Yes, guys, thanks for tapping the screen. We've been on here for a little while. We're only at 22,100. I say only 22,100. But last night we got to 50,000, over 50,000, and that's just by tapping the screen and sending up the hearts. And I appreciate you doing that because it helps drive this TikTok live out into the world so more people can see it. This process for building these is very easy. It looks like my little lady tipped over in the back. I think she's probably had too much eggnog. She did. She's gently glued in there. I'll have to deal with her later. But yeah, so anyway, I'm going to set this down. You cannot manhandle things too much, and then it falls apart. So I'll be fixing this later. And since we're at it, we're going to show you the other one. You know, I laughed when I watched my live. I watched the archive live last night, and I laughed to myself because I thought I could imagine me disappearing off screen like this, and then you guys hear crash, bang, and a bunch of broken glass. I'm afraid that's going to happen sometime. So this one I did in 2022, and the one that was on here originally I did not like. It had a low slung ceiling, so I tore it down basically to the foundation and rebuilt it, and this is it. So this was really my 2023 official one. I've got the little guy in the back playing the piano. You see him back there. And then we've got a little girl playing the flute next to him, and they're wrapping presents here on the front. This is a cream-colored Christmas tree with red and silver ornaments on it. And look at this 12-light chandelier. That is a brass chandelier. That came off of, I think I got that off eBay or Amazon. I don't remember. It's a little gigantic. It was bigger than I thought it was going to be, but I still used it. I think it works. I made the ceiling a little higher to make it to accommodate it. But yeah. The glass domes. Thank you, Lori. Lori, you are an amazing moderator, because you remember things. You are absolutely right. What Lori said, please look at that. That's where this one came from. Triple cake layer top. This came from Ballard Designs. That's the only place I've ever seen this one. So if you want to get a really tall one, I recommend it, because you can have a really tall house. This one doesn't go on this one, or does it? Yes, it does. As I squish down in the house. One or the other. Anyway, we'll figure that out later. But anyway, that's where this came from, Ballard. This one, I don't remember where I got this, but it's online. Some company does these, and I don't. This is, look how big this thing is, and it's super thick. So it's a really nice one. Maybe this one goes on here. I think so. Yeah, I think that's how it goes. Yeah, so that's it. All right, let me unplug this. Thank you, Drew. I try not to. The magic in these things, if you're making one of these, the magic and the disaster is in the detail. It's in the detail. The tiniest little things. That's where you can really go off the tracks to cheese and people go, that's kind of cute. Or you can go, wow, and it's in the detail. So that's really where you that's where you need to spend your money. I told you guys last night in the live, these chandeliers run anywhere from $150 to $300. So that's the range of pricing. I save my money for the lighting because the lighting is the wow factor. And so spend the money on your lighting. Don't buy a $20 chandelier to put in your cloche if you're going to do it, or if you build something like this. Put something nice in there, because it really does make a difference. And that's from experience. I've learned that. And these, by the way, these are the little gifts. And that's an earring. This is an earring. So what I do is take the earrings and I take a wire cutter and cut off part of the post, and then you can push it down into this wood block. This is just a little block of wood, is all this is, with washi tape on it. And washi tape is a Japanese art tape. It's typically metallic and stuff like that, as you can see. It's super easy to glue or stick onto a wooden block like this and make your little gifts. And it's super fun. The jewelry, the Christmas jewelry, those of you who know about it, just after Christmas, it gets marked down to 90% off. And look at this little bow. That is a gorgeous little bow for a gift, you know? I just think that's awesome. So, yeah, that's my recommendation. Use jewelry to do it. Let me get my, I notice I have black paint all over my hands, so let me clean that off. Yeah, that's where you see those little details like that. That's how you make your piece unique, is to find stuff. I had mentioned last night, if you want to create artwork for the wall, look at packaging of items that you would typically throw in the trash. People don't look up close. Sometimes even a label on a can, sometimes like a can of soup or something, might have some sort of a motif or a design. You can just carefully remove the label and then cut it out. For my artwork and the one you saw with the little girl, this was the artwork on the wall. This was off a piece of Christmas wrapping paper. And this particular part of this tree had a little red bird on it that you see right there. So I cut that out and glued it into a frame, and it looks like a really beautiful piece of bespoke art. And most people, because this is so small and it is ephemeral, it gets thrown in the garbage, they're not going to recognize that. But if you go down to Michael's or you go to Hobby Lobby and you say, oh, look at the cute little dollhouse framed art, and you buy it, well, there's thousands of those that have been made, and someone's going to see that in your piece, and they're going to go, oh, I saw that at Hobby Lobby. That's so cute. Don't let that happen to you, because they're not telling you it's cute. They're telling you, oh, that's homespun. And that's been said to me many years ago in Silver Lake, California. I was a certified farmer in the state of California growing herbs, herbs that were culinary and aromatic herbs, selling at a farmer's market. And someone who looked like Gina Davis, it may have been her, I don't know. We had put in our booth with our stuff that we were selling these little scarecrows that we had bought at Michael's. They were just there for decoration because it was in the fall. And that's how she said it. She looked at our booth and went, homespun. That's how she said it, and turned and left. The scarecrows were quickly removed because they were actually scaring people away. They were making us look bad. It was so weird, and it was such a lesson learned about what homespun is. And, not that homespun anything's bad, but sometimes you want to be unique. You want to be unique. Lord, how I blab on. Yes, this wrapping paper, I don't know where that came from. Steve is a gift wrap crazy person. So that man can find some amazing wrapping paper. And anytime I'm working on some kind of art project, I need something tiny, he's got a wrapping cart in this closet over here, and I can roll it out on wheels, and I just start pulling the tubes of wrapping paper out and looking for stuff. And he also buys really cool little gift tags, and I've used those as rugs on the floor. And I don't think any of those have one, but the gift tags sometimes make really good rugs. I'm looking over here, guys, in case you're wondering, because I have a big screen so I can see your comments. So that's why I'm not looking at the camera. Steve is actually good for a lot of reasons. Gay and May, you're welcome back. I'm so glad to see you. All right, I'm cleaning the paint off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put these black pieces down, let them dry. I'm going to put this back on because I'm going to kick it and break it for sure. So evidently I have them backwards. So on this live, you're going to watch me break my stuff. So watch this. Okay, we survived it. Okay, Stefro. Yeah, exactly. We don't want to curse myself. We are working on a clock cabinet, and I'm going to show that clock one more time. Thank you for the crown. I appreciate that. That's very sweet. You guys are tapping that screen. We're at 28,100. Last night we got 28,100 in like 5 minutes because you guys tapped away. So the reason that tapping is important and sending up hearts on these is because it pushes these lives out so that more people can see them. And that's kind of the idea. But let me show you the cabinet. If you're new to Artful Roger, Roger with a D, R-O-D-G-E-R, we do projects typically 2 times a week. Tuesdays and Thursday nights I do lives. Thursday nights I'm typically here at this craft table working on these things that we're working on tonight. I'm going to show you in just a moment the one we just finished in the last series of lives. But on Tuesday nights, we're going to have Tuesdays at the table, or I'm going to be in my library, and we're going to be sitting I'm at a desk where we're going to be talking more like this the entire time of the live instead of me doing something, because it really gives me a chance to see these comments and read and interact with you guys. So thank you, Lori. Yeah, let's see if we can get to 50. That would be awesome if we could. Yeah, that piece that you sent. Yes. Yes, Henry, thank you. Hang on. Let me grab this thing. And this is for the person who just joined. This is the one that we did in the last series of lives. This is the one we finished. And if you are curious about this, some of the archive is on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. So it's Artful Roger with a D, Art Roger with a D on YouTube. You can go and look at it and you can see this the series of lives that we did to make this happen. But this is the one we finished. Steve is my spouse. All right, hang on. We're Houston and San Antonio. We have a problem. I think we're unplugged. Too much movement here. There we go. All right, I'm going to open this bezel and door so you can see into it. And so this is what we did. So this was an empty clock case, an antique clock case that was just a dusty, dirty piece of junk that I found at an antique mall in Charleston, South Carolina. We painted it during the live. We chose the gold. We did the stenciling on the front. We added the feet. And then we built the interior. So everybody was around for this entire thing. So there's a little toddler doll that is an antique German toy, Bisque, the little figure. And so she is the primary central point in this particular scene, as you can see. She has her little kitty cat there on the chair. And she has a little doggy right in front of the fire. Those are both vintage porcelain pieces as well. So yeah, this is what we do. The little gifts are the washi tape gifts I told you with jewelry. Those are earrings on top of every one. Those are Christmas earrings. You could even do it with, costume jewelry from Claire's. Those little packets of really sparkly rhinestone earrings. Those are perfect for making your gifts, yeah. Thanks, Jeffrey. That's high praise. So yeah, I want to show you the ceiling. Look at this. That fixture has a ceiling canopy. Isn't that awesome? That's just such an awesome feature that the light fixture has that. But then there's the piece of art made from the gift wrap in the back. You see the tree with the bird in it. That came out of the gift wrap. And that's just a dollhouse mirror that I purchased. Probably bought that on Amazon or somewhere like that and did that. So yeah. So there's a kitty cat on the chair. All right, look. Little B, put your reading glasses on. So the kitty cat's on the chair by the fireplace, and the doggy's right by the hearth in front of the fire. Little B, let me know you see it. Yeah, and there's curtains on the window, yes. And the curtains, you can buy those on Amazon. That's just a little set of, you see it now? Okay. My arms are killing me, little B. Hurry up. So yeah, there's two animals in there. The dog I found this past weekend actually at another market, but the cat I'd had for quite some time. But those things you can find you got the joke, little B, thank goodness. You can find those little animals and stuff at antique stores. If you go into an antique mall, look in the glass cabinets. And those ones with all the tiny little stuff in it, look at that stuff. That's how I found the Bisque doll. The little girl that's in here, the little girl that's looking at the gift, this thing. Look at my video history and you'll actually see, I took a video before the lady came and unlocked the cabinet. So you'll see it. And I asked you guys to guess which one I was going to buy. Unfortunately, the day I was there, my brain was thinking only of this little girl that I bought. But the lady who came over, who worked at the antique place, took this one out that I bought and said, is this the one? And I was looking at it and she says, what about this one? And there was another one like it, similar to it. It had a little hat on. And I looked at it and I said, no, it's not quite right. What was I thinking? I've been thinking about that little thing. I'm like, I should have bought it, but there's a reason why I said no. And I'm going to go back in there again. It's one of my favorite antique places south of Atlanta. I'm going to go back in there again, and I guarantee you I'll buy that little figure, but there'll be something else that I didn't see. There's a reason I left it there that day, so I'm not too upset about it. That's how these things go. There's always some magical little series of events that happen to bring these things in. Yeah, I don't know if the gold pen's going to work on this new one. I'm really nervous about it, on the new clock face. And when we're talking about the gold pen, guys, if you're new to this live, you haven't been on here before, what we're talking about is this Pilot, this thing. This is a gold paint pen. This is a 5mm made by Pilot. It's tough to control this paint. And I was using the grooves on this clock. These were pressed in grooves, and you can see even on some of them, especially around the bezel up here, like right here, it's not very straight because it wasn't deep enough to control the pen. So I was doing it freehand as best I could, caffeinated. So this is caffeine-free Diet Coke because I do want to go night-night just a little bit after this live is over, so I don't want any caffeine. Yeah, I'm sure they do make a brass one. There's copper, silver, all kinds of colors. But there may be one. So, yeah, and don't tell me that looks too gold. If that's what you're thinking, just don't say it. I don't want to know. Sharpies are too, the Sharpie tips, they just mess up. This is actual paint, and it smells like paint, but it's much better. Yeah, Jeffrey, I'm glad you did. So I'm glad you tuned in. And yes, just check in. This will be on YouTube. So you can look for it there. Please go to YouTube and subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. Jeffrey, good to have you on the live. I appreciate it. It will all work out. It always does, Smart. Retired Smart Alec. You've evolved, Smart Alec. You really have. You've evolved from the first time I ever met you when your name was something different. And look at you now. It's just awesome. Yeah, Lori, thank you for that. And don't forget to put the D in, because if you go looking for Art for Roger without a D, you're not going to find me. So let's move to one other thing while I'm here. So I'm going to take this out because we've all seen it. We're back to the little columns, and these are the columns for the side of the clock case that we're working on tonight. So these are gold, as you can see. I've been painting these. They were black before. They're going to fit. I'm going to see if, yeah, this one's the one that's a little bit mini. I'm going to put one of these in here to see what it looks like. Of course, that one is being irritating. So there's one of them. And I think that's going to look pretty good. And this will get, of course, this will get fixed and all that. But I think that's going to look good. I love the gold. I'm going to black wax this down a little bit so it looks a little bit more weathered. But then the bezel, let me grab the bezel. This is the bezel that's going to go on it. You can get an idea of it. So it's kind of coming together. This is a little more antiqued, and then this thing is going to be on the top right here. So we're going to have that up here. I don't think I can do all this with my hands. So there we go. You get the idea. So with the gold. I think that's going to look pretty good. It's coming together. The columns at this point are a little too gold, but again, I'll knock them down with some black wax. And I think it's going to look good, yeah. And again, it's a 1920s theme inside. It's going to be, yeah, I have some rub and buff. And rub and buff does work well too. Oh, tall mantle clock. You guys asked about that. Let me put this down. Hang on. I meant to show this last night and I forgot about it. Don't go anywhere. I'm just going over to the Mad Scientist Laboratory. I'll be right back. Do not hyperventilate. Chipper, take it easy. I'll be right back. So the one I went to get, I've already taken it apart. Did a mock-up on it, and I've taken it apart, so I couldn't show it to you. But I do have this one. Again, I buy things when I see them because I get a sense that maybe something could happen. This one is empty, as you can see. Some of the veneer is gone. I got this for nothing, super cheap. But again, you can see clock is gone, but this could be something too. This, I'm not sure. It hasn't come to me yet, but yeah, 50,000, yeah, 50,000 likes. Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, we got 50,000 last night, and unfortunately I had to take the live down, so it's not archived on YouTube. But anyways, this one, there's a lot of work to be done here, and I'm not sure, but it's so shallow, but we'll see. But we'll see what I do. I've had this one a long time. It's just like the one that we just finished. I'd had that for a long time too, so we'll see what happens. Tap it out, people. Tap out all your aggressions. And this one has some glass here on the bottom too. Yeah. Under the top, yes. You would ask, let me show you something. What happens after a live when I do show and tell? When I turn this live off, you can only imagine how much stuff is everywhere to have to go put it all away because it's all piling up on the floor. Hang on. During COVID, I got dark, like a lot of people did. And this is my apocalyptic creation. I'm trying to get this cord thing apart here so that I could plug it in. This is an old anniversary clock. So you ask about that. This is one that I converted. This is, again, a broken anniversary clock that had no home. So we did this for it. Everything I do is illuminated. It has to have lights in it. So this is just lit up. So I'm going to show it to you with the glass on it right now. But you can see it's ruins with these tubes pushing up out of the ground. It's like, I'm going to take the glass off here in a minute. But you can see it's like, do you see that? It's like busted down. Everything's destroyed. Is what it is. And it's really cool looking in the dark. I'm going to take off the glass, which was covering an anniversary clock. This is where you hear glass breaking because I dropped something. But I'm going to do this so you can see it up close. But you see it's like the end of the world. And it was like this creature thing. Look at that spidery looking piece of metal. This is just what I was feeling inside during that time, you know, that the world was over. There's these light up as well. So you can see the tubes light up. So this whole thing, it's like they're pushing up out of the ground back here. See all the rubble from the building, the old lights, these lamp posts here. They're not Nixie tubes. No, they're just vacuum tubes that I underlight with LEDs. So yeah, this is like end of the world. That's what this is, because it kind of felt like that, you know, during that time. Like we were never, ever going to come back. And so what I do, this is an anniversary clock base. This is another anniversary clock I just inverted. And the reason it's here is so it can hide my wiring. And then this is a part of another lamp that I just thought looked really cool kind of with all this other stuff. So it's kind of weird. And then I keep the glass. So this was the glass topper. And basically when I'm building this, and not basically, this is absolutely how it goes. I build everything to fit directly under this glass. So 100 million things go under this glass before I finally settle on what ends up in it at the end. So this is it. Yeah, that's not good. User 462. And I'm, you know, it's true. It kind of looked like that, you know. It does kind of look that way. You do. It is a spider. It's supposed to look like a spider because that is a metal, that is an old metal bulb cage is what it was, old rusty thing that a friend gave to me and said, this is really weird. I thought you'd like it. And it was it was solid. It was a whole piece. But when I cut it apart, once I started cutting it, that was the top of it. It just started to look like a spider, and it looks really creepy like that. I think it just looks, I loved how it looked. It's just like a massive spider coming up out of there. You're not offending me. Don't worry about it. Please don't think that I'm not offended. I'm good. I'm just saying that was super sad. Yeah. And this thing was more about depression, which I guess people are depressed too. But anyway, yeah. So you ask about anniversary clocks. I did a lot of anniversary clock stuff. over the years. As you know, this was me in my former life. Before I took on the new name Artful Roger, I was known as Ben Cliff. So I was Ben Cliff for, and that's me back in the day. But Ben Cliff was born in 2011 and existed until we just dissolved the LLC at the end of last year, because Artful Roger has taken its place, because kind of a new dawn. This TikTok thing is very different. But I sold on Etsy, and I sold a lot of my creations. I did a lot of commercial work, stuff for coffee houses, and I did some stuff for TV and movies, and sold a lot of one-offs to a lot of individual people. Stuff like this right here is what I was doing back then. I don't do much of these. I still can do them, and I finished one last summer. It's on TikTok. It's a mechanical piece square under glass. If you want to see it, go back to my page and look at my video history, and you'll see it. I eventually will bring it down here. It's super heavy, and I just don't. It's hard to hold and all that, but I'd love to show it to you guys. It's really cool. Yeah, this is really awesome in the dark. You can see the lights are on now. It has a lot of switches on it, but you can see that they're lighting up, but it's hard to see because I have so many lights in here. And if I turn, you know what? Hang on one second. I might be able to show you. Let me see. I might be able to turn some of these lights off. Let's see what happens here. Maybe you can see that. It's a little bit better. Let me turn the lights on. Yeah, you can see it. A little bit better. So yeah, really kind of cool. I'm going to turn my lights back on. But that is the Artful Roger story. Yeah, it's still kind of hard to see in here for sure. It definitely is. Yeah, and I'm glad you guys like it. You know, and it's fun to share it. It absolutely is. When I turned off my lights, you know, I like to tell you guys every single thing that's happening behind the scenes. When I turned off my lights, I turned off my monitor right here next to me. So guess what? I'm not screen mirroring anymore. So now I'm having to look at this in very small text. Bear with me a moment. I'm going to take this and go set it back down. I'll be right back. And I'm back. Yeah, I'm going to have to do something about that. Yeah, I have. Right now, I just have those back there because we're working on these clock cases and cloches. So that's what I have back there right now. Henry, I don't know. I have no idea what you're going to do with me. Yeah, I keep doing things crazy because I have all this stuff plugged into the same outlet. So I need to fix that. I try to accommodate you guys. Hey, I'm trying to be a nice guy. I know, it's true. I'll be making an entire display. That's very true behind me. I don't think I'll probably end up shut. I know, it's true. I'll be making an entire display. That's very true behind me. I don't think I'll probably end up shutting. Has been restored on the fly while I was still live. I can't believe it. Yes, you needed Jeopardy music. Absolutely. This is absolutely what we needed. Yeah, I can't believe that I actually pulled this off. I actually stopped mirroring and I actually fixed something technical while I stayed live, because typically it's called full panic mode and everything shuts off. Ellen, you've joined my live. All right, so let me get back to something. Why don't I do something productive? Yeah, exactly. So Tammy went out and found my video. It looks like I see a comment. So I don't know which one she found, but she evidently found something. There's a lot of stuff in the video history, guys, of this stuff. See all this scratching I just did? That all can easily be fixed with chalk paint. Super simple. Easy to touch up. It's very forgiving. Look, Henry, if you're still here. Look at that, Henry. You see my home address there, Henry? No. So let me talk about my face, okay? Let's talk about this face. This face does get moisturized daily. This face currently is undergoing a colorization from stuff called Bro Glow. If you've heard of Bro Glow, it's sold here on TikTok. It absolutely works. I am going to Palm Springs at the end of the month, and so I am slowly putting a little bit of color on my face. So what you may be seeing is Bro Glow at work, which is a tanning type of stuff. It does not do anything with UV, but it simply colorizes me a little bit. I may be looking like a carrot, but I promise you it looks like a natural color. So that might be happening tonight. The other thing I would tell you, full disclosure, is that TikTok puts a little butter in it. And I think that there is some slight smoothing happening. And whereas I do look like this in real life, because I saw Ellen join. Ellen knows me in the real world. She knows what I look like. I probably don't look this good, but I think that that TikTok does put a little bit of smoothing on it. So Sam Rockwell, nice. No, I don't have the Glamour app. Although there is a video or two in my history where I do turn the Glamour. I turn it on, the bold Glamour. I turn it on because it is so surprisingly different. It's just you could get used to living in bold Glamour. That is for sure. Thank you, Ellen. That's very kind of you. And I know Ellen in the real world. Ellen is a friend of nearly almost 20 years too. Ellen, something like that. We've known each other a long time. So yes. Thank you, Lori. Yeah, the ones that make you like a teenager. There's also the one that makes you look like an old person. I did that. I have that, and it thinned out all my hair. I had my glasses on, so I looked probably how I'm going to look in another 15 years. I should make that my thumbnail here on TikTok. Yeah, we're at 50,000. Yeah, this is awesome. Yes. Yeah, and I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for tapping the screen. You guys have done it again. I'd really appreciate it. You're not going to do that. Yeah, you're not going to add it. So there's a cat in here. Somebody let the cat in. So I'm going to put a little more gold on this. Was that all you guys needed to know about my face? I gave you full disclosure. I even told you that I'm using a tanning product to actually put a little color. Because, I don't want to be at Palm Springs. We're going with friends. And I don't want to go out to the pool and put on my swimming trunks and all my jiggly stuff is, it's all looks like marshmallow. We kind of, toasted marshmallow always looks better than just a regular white marshmallow, don't you think? I think that's what would be good. So that's what I'm doing. I'm toasting the marshmallow in advance before I get there. This is where you guys can make all kinds of comments. Yes, Ellen, those swimming trunks. I'm taking those swimming trunks too, Ellen. It's an inside joke, guys. Sorry. It's not even a joke. Ellen bought me, I was visiting her, and I did not, she has an indoor pool, and I did not bring swimming trunks to swim. And so we were in the little town she lives in, and we went in this men's shop, and it was a super nice little shop. And they had swimming trunks, and they were made by an artist of some artist person's art was on them. They were not inexpensive. And Ellen bought me a pair of swimming trunks, the most expensive pair of swimming trunks I've ever owned. And I just adore them. I love them. They've got this guy's art on them. They're just really cool. So I'm taking those to Palm Springs. Toasted marshmallow. Yes, that is what we're talking about. You got to admit, a bag of white marshmallows, you toast them and they look a lot more tasty. So that's what I'm hoping. I'm doing that before I go to Palm Springs. And other people have to put on sunglasses when they look at me. Yeah, I'm just putting another coat of gold on here. I don't think there's anything that I won't talk about. I mean, I noticed that when I watch back my own lives, is I just blab on about everything. Guys, thanks for the little roses and stuff you're sending. Those are super nice. The diamonds, you probably already know this. I think that I don't watch lives much, and I haven't bought anything on here, but I think the little things you send, you purchase, They're, some of them are worth like a penny or something like that. So when a live is over, I get an email that says about monetization. It says something about what your live generated. My lives generate typically. Congratulations, you earned 7 cents on tonight's live. Congratulations, you earned 47 cents. That's what I get. And I'm not asking for anything. I'm just telling you. But last Tuesday night, when we had that very serious discussion on my comeback and when I was at the desk in the library, as we call it, $5.40. I saw it. I was like, what? So I had to go back and look at my stats. Somebody brought a bucket of diamonds and dumped them. So evidently, whatever was being said was worthy of some diamonds. So again, I'm just being full disclosure and telling you what it's like behind the scenes, because that's what happened. I was quite impressed that $5 was a far cry from my sometimes 7 cents. So I was pretty happy about that. Tell us a story. I thought of something. This afternoon of a story that I could tell. And I thought, well, that would be a good one to share. And then I forgot what it was. And I don't know. I only want to tell happy stories. I want to tell good stories. Stories that are fun. Not things that were not pleasant. Well, we do that. When we have Tuesdays at the desk, we're going to have Tuesdays at the table is what I'm calling it. When we sit over there, those are when I really talk about stuff. So we're going to, I'll come up with some stories for there. A childhood story. Let me think. My parents, my dad was career Navy, as you know. We lived in Norfolk, Virginia. You know what? My parents have passed on. So I think I could tell some of I just thought of this private story that I could tell. But it's not too, let me think about this. It's such a good story, though. It's one of those stories when you're a kid and you don't know what's happening. This is the kind of story it is. Something happened. It was something my mom put me in the car. I remember this. I remember she got me out of the bed at night. I was in the back seat of the car. And I remember waking up while I was in the back seat of the car. My sister was in there too. We're both in the back seat of this red, it was an Impala. It was a 1969 Impala. It was new. It was my dad's. It was like a sports car, 2-door. We're in the back seat on those vinyl seats. Picture it. Driving along a boulevard. And so at night, it's sometime in the morning, and as you went under streetlights, the streetlights would light the car and it would kind of go through the car. The light would kind of start at the front and go out the back. And I just remember the waves of light and waking up to that. And that was my memory. And I remember waking up at some point in the story in the backseat of the car, and I heard my mom yelling. She was outside, and I remember seeing my mom. This is what I remembered, because I was a teenager when I asked my mom. What I'm telling you is how I presented it to my mom. I said, Mom, I remember you put in the car. I remember the lights going by. It was 7 in the morning, and she starts getting ghostly white. And I said, this is what I remember. And I said, I remember you being outside the car, and I kind of woke up, and you were in a little, an open area beside a house, and I could see the light on in the house, and you picked up a stick or a piece of wood or something, and you threw it through the glass. And she was mortified. And so it's one of those moments where you're dealing with your teenager, and your teenager recounts the story as a kid, and what are you going to say to your teenager? That never happened. She had to tell me the story of what happened. So, does anybody want to know? Anybody want to guess what the story was about? Why would my mom, who was a very artistic, kind, wonderful soul, her CB handle in the 1970s when we had CB radios, if you guys lived through that stuff, my dad was Jolly Roger, because he was also a Roger, without a D. Thank you, Dad and Mom. But hers was Carolina Sunshine. That's who she was. She was a smiley, friendly person. User 462-411-055368, you win. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what was happening. So I found all of that out. in just a few minutes from recounting a story that she thought I was asleep. And there's more to it. I remember seeing somebody talking to my mom being in trouble or something like that. There must have been police there, and I don't. As a kid, you can't attach that to anything because you don't have a memory of what it is. So you just know there was commotion. But yeah, evidently my dad was seeing someone. It was my dad in that house with whoever that was, and they were surprised when a 2x4 went through the glass. That was my kind and wonderful mother dealing with my dad doing what he was doing during that period of time. They're both passed on. My mom died in 2001. My dad died in 2016. Rest in peace, both of them. They were married for 25 years. So they divorced and remarried. Both of them did, into much happier situations than they had when they were together. There was a lot of tumult for me as a child. There was just two kids. I'm the spitting image of my dad. Look a lot like him. I'd have all of my dad's looks, with none of my dad's interests. So we're two different people that look almost identical. It's really just kind of a strange thing. So, yes, and my mom took care of business, and I would say that's really true. Yeah. No, they were not Mormons. No, the Mormon church came along when I was in high school. That's another story that's very interesting. How the Mormonism got involved in my life and why I joined it. But I did at 17. But yeah, that came later. Thank you, Chipper. Some people say that my dad was good looking. My dad was good looking, and I'm going to say that to you too. This is true confessions, because this is for table talk, is where I would usually to talk about this. And I'm going to post this in my archive. It's been interesting being on TikTok, because what you just said is said a lot. I mean, there's a lot that happens often. People mention about how I look, and it's I think it's challenging. It's challenging because I don't know. I think I appreciate hearing it. It's flattering, I guess, but it's something that I'm not going to get drunk on, that makes me different. Genetically, this is why I look the way I look, is because of genes. Because my dad genes look like my grandpa. I look like that side of the family. That's how I just got handed down. But it's interesting psychology when those things are said. Yeah, it's anyway. I'm missing all these comments. Yeah, see, isn't it interesting how these memories stick with us? Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. I just read your comments about that. Yes, and you remember these things as kids. We have these little memories. I have a picture of my dad, actually. It's on this phone that I'm looking at. So for you, there's no way I could get to it right now. I need to bring a picture of him. I wish I had a paper picture to see. There is a picture of my dad back then in the 60s. He was wearing the Navy uniform, and it was that Cracker Jack uniform they wore back then. If you know the one I'm talking about. My dad is so handsome in that shot. It is just this iconically beautiful picture of a beautiful man in that uniform. Yeah, he was super handsome. My mom met my dad hitchhiking. My dad, not my mom, my dad was hitchhiking. He was in the Navy, of course, and my mom and her brother were going to a dance in Charlotte, North Carolina. This was back in 1960, 61. She and her brother were going to a dance, and they passed my dad, who was hitchhiking home from Charlotte, which they lived just south of Charlotte, and that's where he was heading. So they picked him up, and that's how my mom met my dad, the two of them. My mom was 3 years older than my dad, but my mom was absolutely smitten. I think my dad was smitten. My mom was beautiful, blonde, they both of them. There's pictures of them when they were first married, and it's just, they're both so beautiful together. So I think there was a lot of attraction between the two of them, and they had a really good thing. I think troubles happened later in their lives. That's when things started to go awry. And my dad, I think that my dad had, as happens to people when they're probably, women thought my dad was hot or attractive, and I think he had there was a lot of interest around him, and I think he probably was challenged with trying to keep that under control, and that's how he got in trouble. And he got in trouble a couple of times. That one time was the biggest one that I just told you about. His other times, I probably things happened, I'm sure, but that was hard for them. It was hard for my mom because my mom was not that person, and I think there are people in relationships where the one is not like that. Thankfully, the relationship I'm in is not like that. This is a lockdown relationship that I'm in. So, yeah, that's fidelity is important to me. It's important to Steve. I think trust is and loyalty. They're just these things that make me feel good. Yeah, exactly. So I will tell you about egos and stuff like that. When I think back in my own life, when I was in my 30s, I was in my A game. That was my time. I was playing an A game. I was living it. I was drinking my own Kool-Aid. I'm just true confessions, and I would say I was slightly drunk on myself probably during that time, and I fell from 35,000 feet, and it took about 4 years for me to fall to the ground and hit, but it was devastating, and it was a very difficult time that I went through back in 20 years ago, and it was very humbling, and that part of me, I think that's what I'm trying to get at here and talk to you guys about. It was so humbling, and I was so in a place about me that I'm afraid of that person. I'm afraid of ever being that again. I don't ever want to be drinking my own Kool-Aid, thinking that I'm so cool and I'm invincible and all the things that I probably thought when I was in my 30s. I steer clear of that. I think that's when you guys say things to me about you're cute or you're handsome or whatever you say. It reminds me of that, and I'm not saying don't say it. I'm just saying that I'm not drinking that Kool-Aid is what I'm saying. I can live in that, but I'm not going to let that be something that's driving me and thinking, oh, look at me, I'm going to go around here, look at this. Well, you want some of this? I'm not doing that. Been there, been that person, and got myself. I learned a hard lesson. Let's just say that. So I hope that made sense. It probably didn't. Yes. I think, little B, I appreciate you saying that. I think what I'm trying to do at this point in my life is to live more from here and try to be, living from in here and in my brain and not ride, the other roller coaster. I mean, it's just, it's luck. It really is genetic luck that, that we look the way we look. That's just kind of how it is. You never had Kool-Aid? I had Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid came later for me. So in high school, I was the kid that they pushed down in the hall. When I was a freshman in high school, the upperclassman, I was the wipeout kid from the movie whose books went flying. This is what happened. I had a posse of friends in middle school, and when we got to high school, we were sitting in the lunchroom, probably in the first month or so of ninth grade, and they were talking about cutting class and doing these other things, and I just wasn't that person. I wasn't going to cut class. I wasn't going to smoke cigarettes. I just wasn't. It never has genetically been inside me to do stuff like that. It just isn't. It's not because I was a goody-goody. I just am not doing it. That's just how it is. Always have been that way. And I told them that I wasn't doing it. Well, fast forward a couple of days later, and my best friend, who was part of that posse, called me and said, "We don't want you in our group anymore. We don't want you to. We don't want to be friends with you anymore. Nobody likes you. Nobody wants you in the group." So I started ninth grade with 0 friends at a new high school. And so I never found my feet again at that school. We moved 2 years in, but I was the kid getting wiped out in school. I was the kid being picked on. I wasn't doing very well. Let's just put it that way. But later, it got better. It got better towards the last part of school, high school. When I graduated high school, I had a 1.6 GPA. I'm just going to tell you like it is. It's the truth of it. I barely got through. It was so stressful. It was so hard at home. It was so hard in school. I could not focus. It was a very difficult time, but I was a clean kid. I wasn't doing anything illicit. I kept my nose clean, as they say. I got through it. I looked okay. I looked like I had my poo-poo in small piles, but it was scattered everywhere. It was a mess. But thankfully, the Mormon Church came along at age 17 and provided structure, which is exactly what I needed. Those people treated me like I was someone. They did not treat me like I was what I was at school. And in that nurturing environment that I found in that church and with those people, that's how I got better. And that's how I ended up going to an open admissions college, getting my GPA up to an A. I got into the university. So all of those things happened as a result of people who loved and cared about me and saw in me what, was being overlooked perhaps even by me. So, but it was later on in life, in my 30s when I was in sales and kicking rear end and all that, that I started to really went down that road of, look at me, I'm so amazing. But I think I needed to have the humbling that happened so that I could really get back on the ground with my feet. And that's really where I've been for the last 20 years in a place that's very different. I have really gone on and on here, but we did. Yes, Millie, you survived it. Yep, exactly. And I know that story's been told so many times, the kids have been picked on, but it's really the truth. That is really what happened during that time. Yeah, Steve and I were talking this morning about, we were talking about childhood trauma and how we repeat things. And I started this live by saying that. And I realized something that I remembered this when I was 15. I remember that every time that I ever found my feet and started to find out who I was in that very formative part of being a teenager, I think my dad was in competition with me. I think that's really looking back at it. I think he was competing with me for my mom's attention, perhaps. I'm not sure what it was, but he tended to trip me up. He was the person who put his foot out every time I started to stand up. He was also a person who would tell me that I was stupid, that I was never going to amount to anything, that I would never leave home. He said, you'll never go anywhere. Whenever I'd say I'm going to get out of here, which teenagers do, he'd say, you'll be back. My dad was hardcore. He really was. And I don't know, he was physically abused and mentally abused as a child. I mean, it's documented stuff. It's real what happened to him. But, that kind of stuff is formative and you carry that with you. And then on top of that, I had the stuff at home. I had the stuff going on at school. I was barely making it through, but I'm supposed to be here because I survived it. I made it through some really dark stuff and found my feet. I've done all right. Here I stand. It's 2024. I'm going to be 60 in another month, and I'm still here, and I'm doing all right. You can make it. You can get through it. And on top of all of that, I had to deal with the coming out stuff. I had to deal with that. I had to deal with people who were already disappointed. I carried a secret that I was going to have to mega disappoint. I was going to have to carry that. So as a result, I married, had 4 kids, and did all of that, and still ultimately had to deal with everything I dealt with, some 13 years later. No regrets because, things are good, much better in the place that I'm in now. Wow. Have I not divulged some super sauce here? Now, the question is, should I be putting this on YouTube Archive, all I just said? Yes, I think a lot of us, Millie, and okay, Gay, I take that as a yes, and yes from everyone. I'm going to archive it. I will do it. I've got to be brave. Yeah. 122. Okay, cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of us have things that we face in life, that we go through. I think that as we get older too, I think that my facade doesn't show the things that I have dealt with in the past and what I carry. Have you guys ever heard of Enneagram? The Enneagram, which is a personality test you can take and you can come up with, it tells you what kind of personality you are. I just recently did that for work and found out that I'm an individualist. I'm a number 4 in that personality scale. And I read that and I just could not believe it because it really, even there's the light side and the shadow side. I don't think that's how they say it, but the shadow part of your personality, the darker side. You're a 2, Garrett? Yeah, I'm a 4. But really learning that, those things that I do are part of my personality. I was reading the results of it last week in my office, and it literally took my breath a couple of times. I really felt like I had to turn away at one point because I was going to cry. That's how I felt, because I felt so relieved to know that there's nothing wrong with me, that this is just that people have this personality and this is okay. Yeah. See you later, Nerds and Bones. I'm so glad you were here. I love it when you join. So you have a good night. I'm glad you joined. But yeah, it certainly made me feel better to take that and know that, we have a shadow self too, the darker side of us. So I tend to retreat when I feel threatened. I tend to pull away is how I do things, but it was good to see that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, Daryl. Exactly. You know, it's funny. I told this story in a TikTok. We talked about some things, and I talked about my desire to unalive myself. I've learned to use code word, but in the live that I was using the word that is for unalive, I said that numerous times, and I think that's what got me suspended here on TikTok because it sounded like I was being mean. There's words you can't say, but I went through that for quite some time and did not do it, and so survived it. It's a very difficult thing, you know, and it's very difficult to have people out there that tell you that, you know, that part of yourself is something you choose. No, 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 no. No one chooses that for themselves either way, on either side of that game. No one chooses that. You know, it's just, it is something that we have, and we either decide to hide it or we decide to embrace it. And hiding it was not going to keep me here. You know, I had to do something. So anyway, I'm happy that they found yourself. 462, I am sorry to hear that. I really have. And see, it's really hard when you're the biggest critic. When you can't, the voice inside your head is the mean one. It's the enemy is in you, and that is difficult. But I think you can overcome that. I do believe that you can change the internal speak. You absolutely can. Yes, I would, Daryl. I'm 100% agree on that. I was flipping through. Thank you, Jay. Always loved your home and gardens. Learn more about in your 5 minutes. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. I saw a TikTok this afternoon that I was just flipping through, and it was a live. I didn't click into the live, but she was arguing. She was an arguing live, arguing with people that were, it's a choice, it's not a choice, about people who are G. I'm not going to say the word because I'm afraid that that's going to get me suspended again. But people who are G and people who are S, I'm sure you guys can follow that. But they were arguing that, and how many S people were saying that the G people made a choice. And, you know, I want to say to the S people, when did you make that choice, you know? And they were talking about going into therapies that are corrective therapies to make a G person S. And I was thinking, well, I wonder if there could be create therapy that would make S people G. And do they think that's going to work? Do you actually think that you could hook people up to electrodes and that's going to change them that way? I don't understand that stuff. But I did go through reparative therapy. I did that for about 11 years. And I was cured twice. Yes. So here we are. Thank you for saying that, 462. That's right. And I don't think S is a choice. S isn't a choice either. You know, you're just that way. You know, in 7th grade, you know, when you get to that point, you're like, you know, I'm S. And I'm telling you, G people know the same thing. They know. But what happened to me is when they started calling me the F word, I was like, first I didn't know what it meant. And then I had to look it up. I've told this story. We looked it up, and a girl that sat in front of me, her name was Kim. Kim looked back and said, she looked up at a dictionary, and she said, you're a burning stick. And we laughed about it. But it was later that I realized what it meant. It was at home when I realized what they were saying to me and why people had been calling me that. And that's when you start to, as a G person, you start trying to find things to put on the clothing of the S person so you look like everyone else, but you're keeping that secret to yourself, and you deal with it. And that's what happened to me. I called it the issue. That was how I referred to it. And I had the issue from the moment I can remember, which was when I was a little tiny kid, all the way until I finally had to deal with it head on, which was in 2001. So it was a long time trying to get there. It got married, had kids, built a house, a career, all the things I built on top of that house of sand that collapsed on me, knowing that it was going to eventually wash away, and this foundation wasn't there, and it did. It finally went away. But all of that because I was trying to make myself hide all that, and because I didn't want to disappoint my parents, my grandparents, my friends, which all of that went away. It was a very difficult time, but, you know, it's hard stuff. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I did not see the therapy as damaging when I was doing it because I thought it was well-meaning, and I really believed it, and I wanted to believe it. And like I said, there were 2 times where I went, you know, I danced around, I'm cured. But looking at it now, I see how damaging it is, and I see what it does, and I see it, and I hear it, and I'm like, oh, that's so hard to hear. I'm so sorry people are still being told that stuff. Yeah, and we all do it, Keith. I think everybody does it. The G's and the S's. Everybody puts labels. We just do it. That's human. That's part of being, this whole experience we're having, whatever it is. The whole experience is happening in here anyway. All of this. Are we really real? Yes, Keith, I'm glad I'm here too. Absolutely. But I'm not saying I'm a tremendous success story, but certainly have been living in my truth, with Steve now for 20 years. And, I don't have the angst I had when I was married to my wife at the time. I loved her, had a great relationship with her. We had 4 kids. We had fun together. Those were really good years and really good memories that I have of that part of my life. It's the other part when I was in therapy all the time and I was seeing a psychologist and a psychiatrist and this therapist and that therapist and, woo-woo therapy and conventional therapy, unconventional. I did every single thing, hypnotherapy. I did everything aside from having them drilling a hole in and, putting in a core thing and taking that part of my brain out, which I think if they'd offered it back in the 90s, I probably would have been saying, raising my hand, just do it. Because I had so much built and I really loved my family and my kids. It was so important to me. So, it's hard for somebody to minimize that and tell me that it was just a choice and I was lazy and I gave up. And it's not true at all. That is not at all what happened. But there's always going to be 50% of the people who believe you that you did everything you could, and 50% who believe you didn't. And that's just life. That is how everything is, and I accept that. So Preppy Bear, to answer that question, she did not know going in, because this was 1988. So, and I was at BYU at the time, at Brigham Young University, which meant that I would have been expelled had I have mentioned it to anyone. I did, before I got married, go to the counseling at the school, the college counseling, and I hinted at it. I never said exactly what it was, but I hinted enough to I think the therapist knew, and it wasn't a confession where they could expel me from the school. But what he told me was, get married, and everything's going to be fine. That's what he said. It'll just go away. Because I was an inexperienced person. If you know what I'm saying, read between the lines, because I can't say things here on TikTok. But I was an inexperienced person on both sides of the fence at 24 years old. And so the idea was, get married, and I got married on May 21st. On May 22nd, you'll be cured. Because the evening of May 21st, that's when the cure happens. Read between the lines, people. May 22nd was a Sunday. I woke up. I cried the entire day. I cried from the time I woke up till that afternoon. She asked me why I was crying. She was concerned, and I said it's because, my life, has changed, and I'm so happy. I just made up a story. She believed it. But the truth is, I knew that nothing changed. Nothing changed. It was me. Now I was married, and nothing changed. And so it was a situation where I said, I'm going to make the most of this. I have to. I had parents who had just paid for a wedding, hers, mine. People had flown all over the place for this thing, and it was a big spectacle. I stayed married, and, we built a family, and I made the most of it, of what I had, and so did she. We both did. But ultimately, I think we were 2 years into it, and I had to tell her. I had to tell her about it, and it was not easy. And it was a big, emotional, crying, me sobbing, she's sobbing. We're in the kitchen of our little house that we owned, and we're just booing and crying about it. And we were desperate. It's like, maybe this can be cured. This is something we can fix. We can fix it. I can get fixed. And so that was the beginning of 11 years of therapy. 11 years in therapy. In and out, cured, uncured, everything that I went through during that time. It was it was awful thinking about it, and how much money I spent, and how many different medications I got put on, for different things. And it was a roller coaster ride of wanting to unalive and not, and happy and sad, and all of the things that went on during that time. And ultimately, as I told you guys in the live that got banned, that got suspended. What ultimately happened is the very end of it. This is toward the end of my marriage. I decided that I was going to stay with her and that I was going to make it work, and I wasn't going to any more therapy. I was done talking about the G word. I didn't want to ever mention the issue again. It was going to be buried forever, and all I wanted to do was get on a some sort of a pharma that would make it better. And so I went to the doctor. Again, I'm trying to speak in code so I don't say the wrong words. So I went for my pharma, and this psychiatrist wanted to know. What he did is he literally laid his clipboard down on his lap and he said, "I'm not giving you anything until you tell me what's wrong, because these things you're describing is from a long-term unresolved issue, and I want to know what it is, because I'm not going to just write a prescription and you're going to leave." And so I was pissed. I was so mad, and I was sitting there. I was having a stare down with the psychiatrist because I was done talking about it, and I did not want to mention the G word again. And I swear it was 5 minutes of dead silence, and I finally just said, through tears, "I'm G," crying, about it again. And he said, for the first time in 11 years of therapy, "There's nothing wrong with you." And it was so shocking for somebody to say to me that there was nothing wrong with me. For the first time ever, he said, "There's nothing wrong with you. I'm giving you the name of a psychologist who is G. You're going to go to him now, and I want you to start talking to him about how you're going to get out of your situation. You need to start getting on with your life." And he wrote me a prescription for whatever it was back there, for depression. I hope I can say that word. And I left. And I told this already, but I'm telling it again because that live got killed. And moderator, please watch the comments. I got in the car in my Jeep Cherokee. I remember this so well. And I called her on my mobile phone. She answered the phone, and I told her through choked up tears what he had just said. And we both sobbed for, I don't know how long we sobbed. Just listening to each other on a mobile phone, sob into the phone. Nobody hung up the phone. We just cried because we knew after all those years that this was the right answer. She knew it, I knew it, and we knew what we had to do. And at that point, we had 4 kids. We had an 11-year-old all the way down to a 7-year-old. We had kids in school. We had a life built, and we had to make changes. And we did. And it was the hardest, most depressing, saddest thing I've ever had to go through. It was so devastating. Devastating on 100 million levels. I cried so much that I didn't think I could ever cry any more tears. There was nothing left to come out of my eyes because I had cried every tear. I can remember standing in a shower and crying till the water ran completely cold, and I was still standing there crying. This was after she was gone and the kids were gone. Don't tell me, you can't tell me that comes from choosing, that I decided one day I'm going to be this. I want to give all that up. I want to hurt myself that badly because I want this so bad, and I'm just going to make this choice. It's not. It's because I was not 100%. She was not 100%. And that's why we did what we did. Today, 20 years later, I don't feel that way. I haven't been on anything like that. I haven't needed to go see a psychiatrist or anyone like that. I haven't needed to do that. I don't feel that I'm not firing on all cylinders. I'm an 8-cylinder. I'm firing on all 8 cylinders. I'm living in my truth. I'm living to my fullness. So I'm not an advocate of telling people that they can change. Maybe some people have. I don't know who they are, but I'm not advocating for that. I'm really not. I think that you have to, it's better that someone says there's nothing wrong with you and allows you to understand the love and the light that's inside of you. I think that's better. I just think that's better. Kathy, I appreciate that. But that story, I think I needed to tell it one more time, and it will survive so that I can get it archived onto YouTube. I think there are perhaps people that need to hear that, need to know that. It's important. It's important. There's a place for people like me in this world. There's a place for people like you in this world. There's a place for G and S and every other letter that exists. There's a place. And the world can be beautiful that way. I do believe that. Exactly. I agree, Angela, with that. It is integral to you. And but unfortunately, it's still going on today where kids are being tortured because of that, because they're G or they're L, and they're being treated terribly by the S community. Why? Why? Why did the S need to do that? Why did they do it to me? I don't know. So my ex and I there's a lot, that story is so complicated, but we ended up having to live far away because we had been together and we were tight friends. So there was no way, we were like this, and there was no way we were ever going to be able to do this as long as we were so close, because we were always going to pull back together, because we've been doing that on and off for that whole 11 years of therapy. We've been doing that. So we separated out to literal distance between us, literal thousands of miles, and she remarried in 2006, and I've been with Steve since 2002. So that's it. Religion played a role, perhaps. Yeah, Henry, I know. It's seriously, yeah. Religion played a role. I would tell you, for the Mormon church, though, they were a soft touch about it. They call it SSA. It's called same-sex attraction, is what they call it. So I was in their therapy as well. I think they had a more compassionate approach to it, but still not the right advice at the end of the day. It wasn't the right advice, because would anyone want their child to marry someone, your S child, to marry a G child? Would you want your S child to have to deal with that it's difficult? You wouldn't want it. So why encourage G people to marry S people? It's not fair to the S person that has to get married to the G person who's keeping a secret. Let the G person deal with being G. Let them get okay with themselves so they can find another G person and not torture an S person. I think about what my S wife dealt with and what she lost and the years she gave up. We had a good relationship, but think about that. She could have been in a 100% relationship for those 13 years, not in a one that was 90% or 80% or whatever percent it was. It's not right. It's not fair to your S children to encourage G children to marry them. We need to start telling that story. That is a story that needs to get out there. If S people want to get upset about something, get upset that G people are marrying them and falling in love with them, or dragging them along in relationships that are half-baked. You just got to stop telling G people there's something wrong with them, That's what I think. You just got to start telling them they're okay and let them be okay. I'm sure a lot of people here know a lot of G people that they love and care about and are actively involved in their lives and make their lives better. I'm friends with a lot of S people, a lot of S women, because G men have a lot of resonance with you S women. We absolutely get along really well. I love my S women. I really do. And I bet you that a lot of these women that follow me here on TikTok are S. They're not G. Because we have resonance. You guys like the stuff I like. We have that. And I don't know why we do, but we do. It's a known fact. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Angela. And thank you, Ellen is one of my S women. I missed somebody's comment. There was a really good question I saw pass by and I missed it. I hate I missed it. Margaret, you're probably an S woman too. And believe me, we G men, I speak for a large group of them, love you ladies for sure. We're talking in code. So do the math. You've heard of LGBT. You know what the G is, so what do you think the S is? We're doing it because I do not want to get suspended. And I don't know what words I can and cannot say on TikTok. I've already been suspended for a week once before for this subject. And I think my moderator's still here. Thank you, Joan. The G rhymes with stay or hey, and the S rhymes with great, mate, state. Hope that helps. Yes, and I think that S women actually are sharing this. They have a similar place also in society that we as G men do. You know, I think we share that. We have some resonance with them because we're kind of in that same place. We could really talk about this, but it's been interesting because I really, really, really like my women friends for sure. Ellen, you're hitting the nail on the head. That's exactly what I think. That's exactly right. Because that's what G-men are doing. We're not, one thing I'll tell you, this is more true confessions. This is what happened to me. So go back, I was married, I had 4 kids. I was believed to be S, okay? S rhymes with state, okay? They thought I was S, do the math. I was in corporate America. I was killing it in corporate sales, killing it in my 30s. After my marriage ended and I ended up with Steve, and I don't mean ended up, but I was with Steve, and I went back to corporate, this is what my experience was. It was the same experience, but this time there was a glass door. It was like being behind a glass door. And many of my G male friends do not like for me to talk about this because I think it triggers all of them. But it really is true because I experienced it as being perceived as S with a man with kids and a wife. And then I was back in the same workforce, in the same industry as a G-man, and it was not the same. I did not have the same opportunities. It was like a glass door existed. I could see, but I could not go there anymore. I was not in the boys' club anymore. And I know that sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, I lived it. I know it's true. I was not. Did not talk about my spouse at work. I didn't use pronouns. I did nothing, but it was out and known, and it was very different. And I think that's what we deal with in the world. Discrimination can be kind of loaded, but yeah, it's, thank you, Grand Matana. I think that's what we deal with. And I think women maybe face the same thing. So you hear women getting paid less, and women, the struggles that women have in being seen or heard in meetings, or I see TikToks where women talk about how to be assertive in a business meeting when there's all men and they have to speak and they're not heard, or they're told to go get the coffee or something like that. That's probably extreme what I just said. But I think we have, as G-men, have that resonance with our S-women friends. We kind of talk, we feel those things. Maybe that's what our resonance is. I'm not sure. But it's an important relationship to me, and I know a lot of my G-male friends that we have straight women, we just adore them, and we love hearing about their boyfriends and their husbands. I mean, those are really good, juicy stories that we like hearing, and who they're dating. That kind of stuff. It's always fun. And giving them advice. How do I stay so thin? There's a treadmill right here next to me. I think that's what it is. And I did, during COVID, true confessions, gain 20 pounds. I'm down to my goal weight was I wanted to get to 185. I've shrunk a little. I was 6 feet. Now they told me I was 5'11" at the doctor, but down to 185. But during COVID, I was about 210 or something like that. So I was a hefty cinch sack during that time, and I had to get that stuff off because it's super uncomfortable. It's hard to get rid of weight, but I have gotten to this point. So thank you for noticing that I might not be as big as I once was. Gay in May. This is the thing about it. That I understand that, and that's what I'm talking about it. If people can be honest and not be afraid, yes, I do. Answering user 462. But the thing is that happens. You know, it's like I talk about my ex-wife. Yes, I do. I lift. I do some lifting, some free weight lifting. when it's true, I loved my wife. I loved her. I did love her. I was in love with her. I saw her. I knew I saw her as a person. I loved her as a person. She was a whole person to me. She, we did not have that kind of relationship where we slept in separate rooms or anything like that. We had for every part of a relationship, it was a normal hetero relationship, 100%. There was no one was put away. No one, was left, alone, if you know what I'm saying. None of that. I mean, all of that was happening until the day before she left, actually. So we had a very loving and tight relationship, but I wasn't 100%. And it's that missing part. And I'm not missing that now. I'm with someone that I see him the same way. I love him, and we are connected, and we are joined together with our goals and the things that we built over the last 20 years. It just isn't the same. But women, that falling in love stuff happens. It absolutely does. Preppy Bear, thank you for saying that. I think that story right there is a story that needs to be told. I'm seeing that more in movies and books now, where that story of the S woman is being told. They have a story. And I think about my ex, she has a story, but it was all about me getting cured. It was all about something wrong with me. There's something wrong with Roger. Roger's got to get fixed, and Roger this and Roger that. It was Roger, 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 until, no one could think anything else. But they have a story too. And I feel bad for those things myself about that. I feel bad for the girls I dated in college, the girls I dated in high school, the ones that I didn't take to prom, the ones that didn't get roses on Valentine's Day, things like that, because they thought I was fickle, and I went from one girl to the next because I could never get too serious or solid because I was afraid, of it going too far. So I feel guilty, but I couldn't be real, because I was the F word, and I didn't want anybody to know that. I didn't want to be tortured. Yes, it can be with you, user 462. I'm glad some of this stuff is resonating with you guys. And, I am definitely airing it out. I am absolutely airing it out. Here's the thing. I have not publicly talked about this. Even people in my three-dimensional world, friends of mine, like Ellen is on here tonight. Ellen is one of my friends, has been friends with me for a long time. These are things we don't talk about. This is not where you pour yourself a drink and say, let's sit down and talk about all this stuff that happened. But I can do it here on this live because I can keep talking to my phone all night long if I want to, and people come and go. So yes, I'm putting it out here because it feels good to talk about it. There are people still living in the situation I was living in 20 years ago, and perhaps maybe someone needs to hear it. Yeah, my high school pics. I'm going to bring in one of my pictures. I found a picture of me in the height of my Kool-Aid drinking days, which is my when I was living my dream, and I saw a picture and I showed it to Steve. I said, "Look at this guy. This is that person I was telling you about." And there I was, squatted down by a river, with my ring on, doing some stupid pose. I'm going to bring it in here and let you guys see it because I know that guy. I remember him, and he took a terrible fall. That was the one flying at 35,000 feet that took about 4 years to finally hit the ground and completely crash. I'm reading comments again. An open can of mustard. Yeah, this is gold paint. You came out when you were 48. Yeah, I remember years ago in the 90s, and I was probably in my very early 30s, 31, 32, somewhere in there. I was going to it was a G, I'm saying G, and it's a three-letter word that sounds like hay and may, but it was a G-men married men's group. These were G-men married to women, and it was a group where we met once a month or something like that and got together to talk about angst, whatever was going on with us, because we were all stuck in this situation trying to figure out what we could do and blah, blah, blah. I remember at some point going there for about 6 months, and this new guy came to the group, and he we were going around, how you introduced yourself for the first time, and I said, who I was, and I had 4 kids. And he looked at me and said, well, you're stuck there, and you're never going to get out. And I remember how I felt. I always remember his face, and I remember him saying that because I remember thinking that that's exactly what it was. I was never going to be able to ever. That was my permanent situation for the rest of my life, and how that felt in that moment. It was very hard to hear that. I think it also was a rallying call for me, or cry for me to follow, finding my way through it and out of it, But the ultimate thing, getting out of it, was the most painful thing I've ever done. It hurt so much on so many levels. So many levels. So many levels. Yes. So Sarah Beth, you went through that yourself. Yeah. I think, see, the thing is, what you guys are finding out about me being on this live like tonight, and people who have been following me for a while, I'm pretty open. And it's important to me to be open because carrying things and secrets make me sick. I mean, I get super sick inside when I'm carrying things. And so that's why I had to talk to my wife about it 2 years in. I had to be honest with her, and I was hoping that the two of us could do it together. And that's how close we were, because we were going to do it together. And that's how we approached it. It was a team effort. Together we were going to do it. They've made movies. They've written books about that same thing, other couples who have done it that way. That's how we did it. Ultimately, it did not work. Hey, Paul, you made it. What time is it? It's 9:20. Holy moly, I'm still blabbing. You must be off work now. Thank you. I'm not paying attention. So, yeah, we're done with the gold. Let me do someone a favor. I'm going to put the lid on the paint. Yeah, we're not going to get any, we don't want to get any mustard on anything out here. So we got it. And I also, the thing about this paint too, this chalk paint, this is a little dry on the brush, but it'll wash right out upstairs, so I'll clean it out. I'm great. I'm great, Paul. I'm glad you made it. You're right here at the tail end of it, because I've been on here for a little while, a lot longer than I anticipated. I don't even know how long this live's been going on. Holy moly. Great seeing you too, Paul. Yeah, Steve is finally debating being on one of these lives. I'm not sure how he's going to do it, but he is entertaining the idea of even thinking about it. So that's a big deal. So we'll see if he does end up on here. Steve is a vice president of marketing for a home brand, a home decor brand. I'm not going to say much more. I think I've already said the name of the company, which I probably shouldn't have because it's his business, but that's what he does. Yeah. Yes, Thomas. I don't know how long you've been here on the live, but it's my pleasure to share. Good night, Margaret. Have a good night. Thanks for joining. I appreciate you being here. And thank you for that. Yeah, it's, this is, for a long time here on TikTok. When I started out on TikTok, I was, Garrett, have a good night. I was not sharing any part of pronouns in my life and keeping that all tight because I didn't think it was important that I share any of that. But it really has, this thing has grown more and more. And now we're at 90,000 people following me. It's more important, I think, that I'm more transparent about some of the personal aspects of my life. So that's what I'm doing. Yes. So let me remind you guys, as you're hanging out here with me, that these lives are archived on my YouTube channel. It's Artful Roger on YouTube. You can subscribe to that. You'll get notifications when I download new videos. But please do that if you're interested. You'll see those here. Chipper always stays to the bitter end. Yes, definitely, yes. Yes, Joan, that is exactly right. I think it's 90,200 people following on the regular page. So yeah, I'm in compliance. I do electrical compliance for their retail stores. Kathy, I'm answering your question. And I also write their assembly instructions. I handle escalations from their product specialist team, and there's things they can't answer about product, it's in a paint and stuff like that. That stuff gets escalated to me. So research items, so I do that. And some other stuff. I have a very unique little unicorn job there. I do lots of little things for them. I am probably saying something I shouldn't say. I don't know who Henry Rousseau is. I should look it up, and I will. Vivi is still here. Vivi, congratulations for hanging in. Well, we are at 73,000 likes. Let's do this. Let's see if we can get the likes to 75,000, and I will wrap this up. That means you have to tap, because I have got to get myself upstairs. Great. I'm glad you do. Yes, Ballard is it's like a cult following. People who love Ballard, it is a club of people. And let me tell you, when you love Ballard, you love it. And I've met a lot of the people, the customer base. They're amazing. Thank you, Vivi. Yeah, we're gonna hit 75,000. Yeah, we're getting there. It's amazing how fast that happens. Guys, I want to tell you again, and Paul, I hate you joined so late in this because we've been doing this for a long time. Thank you, Earl. I want to thank you for joining the live. I want to thank you guys who have stuck around to listen to me talk about the certain parts of my life that are very personal. Hopefully it's helpful to people. Remember that my lives happen typically on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Tuesday night is going to be at the desk in my library studio where we're going to do a lot of chit-chatting. And then I typically on Thursdays will be here at this craft table working on a project. So that happens. And I'll do pop-up lives on the weekend. So I may be back this weekend. I don't know. But you guys will get a notification if you see it. I hope all of you have a wonderful evening. It's been great talking to you and reading your comments. And I'm going to sign off now. Thank you for all the likes. We're almost to 77,900. But have a good night, guys. Okay, talk to you later.